Salutations! Welcome to Pod Mortem. I'm Reneé Hunter Vasquez, joined as always by my co-host, my husband, and my brother.
Hi, I'm John Paul Vasquez.
Hi, I'm Travis Hunter.
This week, we're recording live from 112 Ocean Avenue, discussing the 1979 supernatural horror film, The Amityville Horror. This film was directed by Stuart Rosenberg, with the screenplay by Rosenberg based upon the book by Jay Anson, with input from George and Kathy Lutz. A year after the real-life familicide committed by Ronald DeFeo Jr., the Lutz family moved into the house where the murders took place. This film is a retelling of the paranormal harassment the family experienced over 28 days. While these claims are steeped in skepticism and controversy, the Amityville Horror became incredibly successful, even spawning its own franchise. So, what did you guys think about the Amityville Horror the first time you saw it?
I remember watching this a lot as a kid and enjoying it. It did scare me, but if I'm going to be honest, it's not like, that's fucking terrifying scary. Right. But it's like, oh shit, that's fucked up. But I do enjoy the movie, and watching it for the show, I still did enjoy the movie.
Yeah.
I agree. I vaguely remember watching this as a kid. I think you probably remember it more than I do, but I do remember a lot of the bigger scenes, the scary moments. Mm-hmm. As an adult, it's more, I feel like it's scary if it happened to you. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't that frightened by it watching it this time. I feel like it was long. Like
it's quite long. To piggyback on that, I feel like, because I did a lot of research into the original crime and into the Lutz's account of what they experienced. And after a certain point in the film, it really feels like they're like, oh, we didn't say this part, so fucking put it in there. No, put in this part.
It's funny because there's like a couple moments toward the end and I'm like, oh, you probably should have explained that.
What the fuck?
I remember being caught off guard by one in particular that we'll talk about.
I'm pretty sure I know what you're thinking of.
And the thing is that they are incredibly faithful to the story they were told and the story that they're trying to tell. But this is all a hoax, right? I mean,
I was wondering how long it would take to get into that.
It can't take very long because that's the thing about this film. I tried to do so much research on the film itself.
Yeah, it's hard. It's very hard too.
All I did was fall into a rabbit hole of Ronald DeFeo, the murders, the Lutz's actual account or whatever. Okay, here's the thing. Let me just put it this way. I was reading up on it and I was like, well, this is not true, right? And then I saw the Warrens got involved and I was like, this is really not true.
The Warrens did get involved. They did. I actually last night fell into a Warren rabbit hole.
Yikes.
And I watched an interview with Ed and Lorraine, and I guess their son-in-law, talking about the haunting. And Ed was very quick to address the fact that people think that it's a hoax. And I laughed because he said that anyone who could prove that the Amityville haunting was a hoax, he will give them $3,000.
Oh, I did hear you listening, or you were watching there.
I was.
What a specific amount.
It made me laugh because if it's something that I know for a fact, and I know if you can prove that my real name is Bill, I'll give you fucking $10 million.
Yes.
3,000. It was just a very hilarious amount to me.
Was he looking at his bank statement this morning and he's like, that seems like something
I could lose.
I can handle 3,000.
No, but he was very adamant. He said that the whole reason that people think that it's a hoax is because of the atheists, and the atheists have to disprove it because that would disprove demons, which would disprove God. I mean, it's really Emily Rose logic, which is a lot for me, but
how can they not think God exists if I show them the Amityville Horror?
Yeah.
Right.
I always thought that, like, I mean, here's the thing. I know that I'm kind of the resident skeptic, but I think I get that reputation because I talk a lot of shit. But the real thing is, I would love for this to be true. I would love to, like, see some of this shit. I'd love to talk to a pig ghost.
I would love to talk to a fucking pig ghost. It's just, I don't know. I've always believed I'm a person that is like, it's haunted. Like, fuck yeah. Like, I believe it, you know. But really digging into the meat of the whole situation, and really that interview with Ed,
that didn't help.
it didn't help my belief. He said he was talking about. So the story is that they wanted to film in the Amityville house.
Right.
Yeah.
But the producers and the actors, everyone was too scared to set foot in the house, so they didn't. But what really happened was the city of Amityville was like, no, we're not doing this shit anymore. You're not filming this movie here. But Ed Warren is like, they lied and they said that they went in that house and they felt fine. And how can you feel fine when all these murders took place here? And I don't know who he was talking about because he went on this rant, but at the end of the rant, he's like, and then they got in their car and it burst into flames.
Wait. See, now he's throwing like 5 stories together.
Listen, I am not above throwing a little hot sauce on a story. A car fucking burst into flames. I was laughing, dude.
Well, let me tell you the real story.
You got to put some razzle dazzle on it.
You have to.
He is a salesman.
Yeah.
The real story is that after Anson wrote the novel that the whole movie is based on, he gave the manuscript to like 4 or 5 different people. And the story is that a lot of those people like had some kind of tragedy in their lives happen near around receiving the manuscript. One of the people, their car burst into flames is the story. But Ed Warren is like making it like, and then when James Brolin got into his car.
He made it sound like they were like leaving the home and then they got in their car and turned the key and it burst.
And so the thing about that is it was almost like a Burkittsville situation.
Yeah. No, I bet.
Amityville is like, we don't want any fucking part of your production at all. And it's honestly kind of sad because they're like, look, don't film here because we don't want that publicity. But then the film's called the Amityville Horror.
Yeah.
People are going to seek out the real house.
Yeah.
To give the address.
Like
Yeah. And I also watched a lot of interviews with James Brolin and Margot Kidder to kind of disprove everything that Ed Warren is saying. But I just feel like, I mean, the movie is the movie.
Right.
And it's very hard to separate from the real story that it's based on.
Yeah.
But if you view it just as a movie itself, it's really good.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of James Brolin, I read that he became really good friends with the Lutzes. And was like, oh, yeah, no, I don't believe a word of it.
Yeah.
I'm like...
I'll touch on that in a bit because there was an interview with Margot Kidder as well because they met the Lutzes as part of this.
Yeah.
They did go to the real house as part of like a publicity thing whenever the movie was being released.
Right.
So these nuggets of truth.
Yeah.
You know, but no, James Brolin his car, it's fine.
Now, before we tell this film to get out, we would like to issue a warning for spoilers. Pod Mortem is a very in-depth podcast, and in thoroughly discussing horror films, we have no choice but to spoil a thing or two. If you don't wish to be spoiled, please go watch the film, then come back and enjoy the show. If you've already seen the film or don't care about spoilers, then let's move in. So the film opens with a shot of the Amityville house bathed in the red of a setting sun, and it looks great.
Oh, yeah.
I love this opening so much. The eyes of the house like peering at us.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. I know they're literally eyes. Like
I'd live there. I mean...
See, honestly, even with the history, I don't give a shit.
They changed those windows. They're just regular windows now.
Never mind.
I read that,
Never mind.
I read that either the current owner or the last owner, he kind of remodeled the windows.
Yeah.
They filled in the pool in the backyard.
Yeah.
And they also changed the address.
No.
Because they're like 112 Ocean Avenue. We're tired of the tourism. But
all right.
the house,
people still know where the house is.
Yeah.
Minus the windows, it's still the same house.
It's a Google search, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
I'm sorry, Amityville.
But the red light dissipates and we quickly cut to like a torrential rainstorm happening outside.
I do, before we get to that rainstorm, and also including the rainstorm, I have something to say about that.
Okay.
The red dips to a black and white,
Right.
and then you get that weird sing-songy score.
Yeah.
The score was done by Lalo Schifrin, and he, I think, was nominated for an Academy Award for this score.
Oh, wow.
And I think it's great.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
In some points, it borrows from Psycho.
If by borrows you mean steals.
Yeah. But I think it's really good.
I really enjoyed it. I feel like it fits, though. Like where
does.
they have it does fit.
The rain, I feel like this movie doesn't get enough credit for how much it influenced. Like the little things like the opening shot of the rain is almost exactly what they did in Urban Legend.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's
it's
true.
It's little small things like that
Yeah.
I'm like, they probably got that from Amityville Horror.
Probably.
I forgot how old this movie was.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, surprisingly.
I pointed something out to your sister last night, and I was like, "Oh, that." I was like, "This movie did that too." And then I was like, "No, wait, this is old as
before.
fuck."
Yeah. But we pan up to the Amityville house, which has every light off except for those 2 eye windows.
The house is awake.
The house is awake. Suddenly, 2 gunshots light up one window before another lights up the window next to it. Inside, we see a man enter a room and shoot again. Back to our view outside of the house, the attic window lights up with another shot. And inside, we scan over 2 of the victims bloody and murdered in their bed. And it's like, okay, this is a movie.
Yeah.
Like, we're in.
I had thought that this was going to be the last time we saw this.
Nope.
It's not. But I was like, at least they did it somewhat tastefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Nope.
no, not as much. And this is fresh, dude. This was like 5 years ago or whatever from when the film was
Oh,
made.
yeah,
Oh,
you're right. I did
wow.
not even think
All
of that
right.
aspect
So you're
of
like,
it.
holy shit.
Yeah. That's fucked up,
A
actually.
little bit.
But later, the police, including Sergeant John Frito, played by Val Avery, and the paramedics are working the scene, and we get a title card. November 13th, 1974, Amityville, Long Island. A mother, father, and 4 of their children murdered, ... no apparent motive. As the bodies are loaded up into the ambulances, 2 detectives go over the details of the case. All of them were shot execution style, with only the mother being shot in the head. When asked to ballpark the time of death, one of the detectives is like, no, 3:15, which is not how forensics work. But
That was very fast. You need a lot more. And I do want to say, I'm like, okay, as soon as I saw that, I was like, this is going to be another Emily Rose
Yeah.
situation with,
yeah.
Another thing is that I always had a different definition of execution style.
Right.
Right.
In my head, it's like somebody's on their knees
Yeah.
and a gun to the back of their
Behind,
head.
Right.
yeah.
Not sleeping in bed. I think you can just say shit when you're a cop. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, sir.
Yeah, execution
You got it,
style.
boss.
You got it, boss.
But we get a shot of the body bags being closed into a car before we fade to black.
Odd that we don't get a based on a true story.
Yeah.
That is strange.
For any film to have it, you'd think this would be the one.
Right.
I'm
But-
glad I didn't see it, but
But like you said, if it was that still kind of fresh, I'm sure they're like, "Oh, I remember this shit."
yeah, like this was on the news last
Yeah.
night.
Yeah. And the book.
Oh, yeah.
It's, yeah. You don't need to tell people.
No. One funny thing about the book is that the author, Anson, he had said that when asked, because everybody's like, dude, you added so much shit. And he's like, I did not. He
Yeah.
goes, I wrote what they told me. And then they asked him if he believed it. He goes, look, I don't believe it. I don't not believe it. It's like, I'm like, well, then what
So
are
you don't believe it.
Yeah, you don't believe it.
What's interesting, and I didn't know this until I was kind of diving in, was the first account of, and I know we haven't met the Lutzes yet, but I'm sure y'all are somewhat familiar with the story. If not, we'll get there in a second. But the Lutzes' story of what happened to them, their experience, I should say, not story, because it's condescending, but their their experience was first documented in Good Housekeeping magazine.
Well, it sounds like bad housekeeping.
Yeah.
I read the article. It's from 1977. Somebody like photocopied it onto the internet. Like I had to search for it. It's all
Very cool.
crinkled. Yeah, it was cool. But there are inconsistencies in that story and the story
Yeah.
that Anson would later write. And they had been asked, I guess, several times to, collab with somebody on a book. And they said no. But Anson came with those laundry bags with big dollar signs on them because apparently he offered them so much money that they were like, bet.
All right.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, shit. I also read that they were under investigation from the IRS at the time.
At the time of the book?
Yeah, which only leads to wanting.
What were they in? I wonder
Yeah.
what they were under investigation for.
Well, I heard they owned like an auto business. It was like
yeah,
either,
like George did. I
yeah,
think.
so I mean, I don't know, man. I'm not here to, speak ill of the dead, but I just feel like, I mean, everything is there. It's ripe. For me, this feels like this would be the greatest like folktale
Yeah.
Right.
urban legend situation. I think it's a little muddied by the fact that everybody went to use this as like a cash grab,
Yeah.
when at the heart of it there is a true crime case.
There
Right.
is. But I would say if I were in the Lutz family and this were a true story and somebody was like, here's a shit ton of money just to tell your story, I would not say no.
If the story was true.
If the story was true. But, and also in their defense, George and Kathy both did pass lie detector tests.
They did, but Nate.
And in the lie detector
George Costanza said, it's not a lie if you believe it.
But
not Costanza.
He's my barometer.
In the questions in the lie detector test, one included them saying that they levitated, both in the house and after leaving the house, they levitated.
Wait, so they got to keep their powers?
Apparently.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll get more on that. We'll talk.
I feel like we're going to keep getting derailed a little.
Yeah. Well, because, I mean, at the root of this is so interesting to me because there is a real life crime that happened here.
Right.
Yes.
Say you believe in 0% of any of the paranormal shit. That's fine. A real horrible crime happened here.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's at least a conversation on its own.
And a real thing that can absolutely be said is that at this point in the movie, all of this happened so far.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
This is all true.
Yeah. I mean, we are about 3 minutes into the film, but yes, that's all true.
And I think the next few minutes are all right.
But we get a card that reads 1 year later. George and Kathy Lutz, played by James Brolin and Margot Kidder, open the door to a boathouse and smile at each other. We get a shot of the house they're looking at, and surprise, it's our old friend, the Amityville house. They walk over to their realtor, Mrs. Townsend, played by Elsa Raven, who ushers them inside, illustrating how much property this house has. She tells them there's nothing else like it on the market for this price.
Well.
I do want to talk about Margot Kidder and James Brolin very quickly. First of all, we love Margot Kidder in this house.
Yes, Barb.
She always gave me like almost Carrie Fisher vibes.
Dude, yeah, I never put that together, but yeah,
I feel like
fair.
they could have been best friends, honestly.
Yeah.
But I read this interview with her, and they asked her if she believed any of this story. And Carrie Fisher style, she goes, it was all bullshit. Like, she said none of this happened. She said the producers tried to get them to make up stories.
I'm sure they did. I mean, that's compelling.
Wow.
That's the shit you want to hear.
So they could sell the film.
Yeah.
In this interview with the Flashback File, she said that when she met the Lutzes, she really considered them to just be very misguided.
Yeah.
But they asked her what she used for her performance after meeting the Lutzes, and she said, well, a willingness to believe anything. And I was like,
Wow.
Yikes. Yikes.
But James Brolin, he was cast in this film because he had received the script from them.
Right.
Or they were working on the script, so they gave him the book.
Uh-huh.
And when he was reading the book, I guess he had hung a pair of pants over his door. And as he was reading the book, he was getting to a really scary part. And his pants fell off the door, and it scared the shit out of him.
Right.
And he's like, okay, so if this can make me afraid of my own pants,
There's
then
something to it.
there's something here. A lot of people have taken that story to say that like his pants were haunted or whatever. But,
But did he talk about the demon that pulled the
no,
pants down?
and then his car exploded. But he also met the Lutzes, and he said that he thought it was a hoax after meeting them. He called George a very good salesman.
Wow.
Yikes.
And he said that's probably why they passed the lie detector test, because they sold it to themselves.
Yeah.
But
well,
I digress.
well, once inside, Mrs. Townsend shows them the highlights: the fireplace, the sun porch, the spacious kitchen. When Kathy starts to whisper doubts to George, he's like, be cool, man. Mrs. Townsend asks if this is their first house, and they tell her that they just recently got married. She leads them upstairs. She refers to the house as a fixer-upper, just as a piece of the banister falls off. It's like, well, she's not wrong.
Yeah.
She shows them an extra room upstairs just as she opens the door. And we get a flash of that night, a faceless man firing off gunshots into the room. And it's like, oh, we're doing this.
I'm not going to lie, I kind of liked it. I was like, well, we're getting to see, you know what I mean? Each room.
Yeah. I guess. But it's like, we know.
I know.
There's only one house that looks like this. We
right.
know.
I think if they would have left it at that, it would have been fine.
No, we're not done.
There's one moment that comes up that is so egregious that I'm like, you guys were just...
It's all right.
Back in present day, Kathy and George step into the room. As she continues leading them around, Mrs. Townsend says there are 3 full bedrooms, perfect for if they're thinking of starting a family. George tells her they already have a family, 2 boys and a girl. Mrs. Townsend clutches her pearls and leaves the room.
I forgot. I'm like, I guess it's the 70s.
I guess.
But when she says that, she goes, oh.
Yeah.
Almost like this house is no longer for sale.
But when she leaves, Kathy's like, cut it out, man.
Yeah.
We get another flash of that night, the gun going off and the victim with their face bloodied knocking a lamp over onto the floor.
There's a point after I think this shot of the murders, because I have to differentiate through all the random shots of the murders.
Yeah.
Did you notice Kathy's brooch?
No.
It looked like a ghost face. Like, I don't know how else to
Like
describe
from
it.
Scream?
Yeah, no. she predicted Scream.
Yeah.
I told you this movie influenced other movies, dude. No. It looked like, almost like, you remember the masks that those like people in the cabin in the woods wore, the creepy masks?
Yeah.
That's almost what it looked like.
Huh.
And I just don't
didn't notice.
understand.
I didn't either. I'm going to have to go back and look.
I didn't get that. I was like, is her brooch already haunted? Maybe it wasn't the house. She brought it with
It
them.
was already...
That's why they're buying a new house, because the other one's filled with ghosts.
But Mrs. Townsend opens the door to the master bedroom, and we see the gunman that night walk in and shoot the sleeping couple in their bed. But in present day, Kathy walks inside and is like, I love it.
Yeah.
As Mrs. Townsend leads them upstairs, another flight of stairs. It's like, goddamn, this house is huge. She explains that there's only one more floor, and then they literally like freeze frame.
Dude,
Yeah.
It's literally, she goes, see anything you like, and then it stops.
Yeah.
It was very strange, and it never happens again.
No.
So it was such a weird
When
choice.
that happened, I was like, so far, you've got the murders in the bedroom,
Yeah.
and then you show them looking at the bedroom.
Yeah.
This one was just weird.
Yeah.
See anything you like? Ka-boom, and it's like thunder and shit. I was like, this is way beyond the pale.
But we see the gunman in the attic shooting 2 children asleep in their beds. We come back on the realtor telling them that anything they like and want to keep is included in the price. In the attic, George proposes that they can wander around on their own and meet her in the kitchen when they're ready, and the realtor kind of reluctantly heads downstairs.
Wait, so anything you like, are these still the DeFeo's belongings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Now that they're alone, Kathy admits that she loves the house, but says that the $80,000 they're asking for might as well be $800,000. I just need a moment of silence that they're buying this house for $80,000.
I do want to point out, I went to an inflation calculator that's over $300,000 in today's money.
God damn.
But when it was the 70s, I thought the realtor was going to be like, hey, a slice of pecan pie. This house is yours. But yeah, so when they said 80,000, I was like, God damn. But
yeah.
in those days.
Yeah.
But minimum wage is still so. Well, anyway.
No, it's bullshit.
Yeah. But
Write your congressman.
But George rationalizes that the house is worth at least $120,000. He can move his office to the guest house and stop paying for the rent for that. He can move his boat to the boathouse here and save money on that fee too. And it's like they're talking about how broke they are, but I'm like, you have a fucking office and a boat,
Yeah.
sir.
Unless you're a grizzled sea captain, you're not poor if you own a boat. Boats are not a poor thing.
No, not at all.
No.
And I can prove that because none of us own a boat.
Nary a boat. But finally, Kathy says she just really wished that guy hadn't killed his own family here. She asks if that bothers him at all, and he's like, well, yeah, but it's not like houses have memories. And if this hadn't happened here, the house wouldn't be on the market. And if the house was on the market, it wouldn't be this cheap.
Right.
Which is a John Paul rationalization. Because I would be like, no.
Well,
No.
I mean, it's a steal.
Yeah.
Nah.
My thing, first of all, the murderer is in prison.
Right.
You don't have to worry about them coming back. That's the only reason, to not buy a murder house is if the murderer is still on the loose.
Right.
Except like the ghosts and the bad energy.
Ah.
Well,
Whatever.
That's what the sage is for. and,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You cleanse the house and then
Yeah.
you get going. Then you get living.
Yeah.
I guess.
I did enjoy that they know the history of the house,
Yeah.
because in a lot of other films, that would be a big reveal.
Right.
In the third act, and they fucking bust up the realtor later.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
a little surprised because they were just like, yeah, man, I mean, it's
Yeah.
whatever, man.
Like, you mean they were killed here?
Yeah.
We've all seen that film.
Yes. But we cut to Kathy and George leaving the house. Mrs. Townsend tells them that she's sure their offer is going to be accepted and to just get ready to move. Kathy and George embrace and laugh. But later, while crunching some numbers at the kitchen table, Mrs. Townsend seems to hear a sound.
Does she not have an office?
Apparently not.
Well,
She's like, there's a table right here. I'll just
Yeah, might as well. I got all my paperwork here.
Yeah.
Right? She's like, I can not pay for my office if I just move it in here. She tries to go back to her work, but her papers lightly blow across the table. Mrs. Townsend packs up her shit and gets the fuck out of Dodge.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I've sold it. I'm never setting
see,
foot in here again.
Now I feel like the character would have got up and hello and then went to the basement and
For
then
sure.
the door would slam
Yeah.
behind her and then we
Yeah.
moved on to the scene. But no, I'm gone. Fuck
I think
you.
this
We don't.
is appropriate, not only foreshadowing that there's something up here, but how a normal person would react.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm
like,
gone.
absolutely not.
It was a light breeze.
Okay. Anyway, it's funny because Ed Warren, I don't mean to keep coming back to it, but he said that when he set foot into the house, and he prefaced this by saying that he is not ace sensitive, as he calls it. He's not like Lorraine.
Right.
Uh-huh.
But he said that immediately setting foot into the house, it reeked of death. Then he was pushed to the ground by a force.
Wow.
And it felt like a hot towel was on his face and he could not breathe.
That sounds very comfortable.
Yeah, I was going to say.
That is a massage, sir.
That's first class flying.
Yeah.
So Ed couldn't even bear to be in the house, and he doesn't have the touch.
Right.
Or the gift, but
No shine.
no shine, no shine. So I just thought that was, interesting that other people, realtors are
Right.
staging and baking cookies and shit, but he couldn't get through the threshold.
Yeah, you know how many people she probably showed this house to?
A few.
For 80 grand?
I would go
I
look.
bet.
Yeah.
I bet.
I wouldn't buy it, but I'd want to see some freaky shit.
Hey, I mean, just be part of history.
Yeah.
And the other thing about that is that everybody has all these stories about the house. It seems like a lot of these very famous cases, the Warrens just kind of glommed onto them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, after a certain point, they said that they were approached. And I guess once you reach that, they're known for one specific thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So when that thing is called into question, it's like, oh, who are you going to call? Basically.
I remember, and this is what was confused me the most, is that seeing their obituaries, the first thing that they usually mention is Amityville investigators.
Yeah.
But they barely did anything.
Yeah.
But the house is more famous, I think, than anything that they did do. So just the fact that they're even tangentially involved in it, you got to throw it in there.
I talk about The Conjuring first, but
Yeah.
I mean,
I guess they weren't in those films, but
no.
better versions of them were.
We love Patrick Wilson.
And Vera Farmiga.
In this house, those are the Warrens.
Yeah.
Yes. If those were the Warrens, I would never talk shit.
Yeah.
Let's put it that
And
way.
Lorraine was saying how every man that was in that house died of a heart attack. And then Ed's like, well, not every man. And she's like, no, yeah. And then
Is she emasculating him in public?
and then she's like, well, you had your heart attack. And he was like, well, yeah. But I'm like, I want some, I would like some medical reports.
Yeah, let's
She's
get-
like, not the women, just the men.
I'm going to need
don't
proof of
know.
every
Right.
single.
When did that happen?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. But we get a card that reads 1 month later. George is watching the kids playing in the yard from inside and wonders if they're getting too close to the river. The kids are Amy, played by Natasha Ryan, Greg, played by Casey Martell, and Matt, played by Mino Pellucci. Kathy tells him that he's starting to sound like a real dad, and George is like, well, maybe I'd feel like one if they started calling me dad instead of George. But George is better than Mr. Lutz, which is what they used to call him.
Like a businessman?
Yeah. Kathy just laughs. I wish I knew a little more about how long they had been together
Right.
and how small the kid, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like his relationship with the kids is not really, like, obviously he cares about them,
Right.
Mhm.
but I feel like it's not really, I don't understand.
It's not as clearly defined,
It's not.
Yeah.
as it could be. And I think that's what's so weird to me is that their relationship feels very lived in.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But they're still calling him George. I don't know. I don't know.
And I was
And
wondering,
what's the
'cause
situation with the dad?
I had no idea.
I want the tea. I think.
I didn't know if it was just because of how magnetic Margot Kidder is.
Maybe.
Right.
But their relationship feels very real and good.
Oh, yeah.
And then James Brolin's just a great actor.
Yeah.
But the kids issue, I agree.
Yeah. But he holds up a crucifix and asks Kathy what she wants done with it. And she tells him to hang it on the wall in the living room so that the sun can hit it. He does. And we like zoom way in.
Yeah.
I'm like, we're going to be seeing this thing later.
I want to call out first the cinematography.
Mm-hmm.
It's done by a guy called Fred Konekamp. And I think he did the cinematography for The Towering Inferno and like
Oh, damn.
tons of like known pictures.
Yeah.
But I feel like his work in this film is so 70s and cool.
Yeah.
Like you get those zooms, you get
Yeah.
a lot of like interesting like angles and like, I don't know, I just really enjoy it. I also did want to point out that, as we said in the beginning, they couldn't film in the real house. So they had to build a house that I think they built in New Jersey. And those are the exteriors.
Yeah.
The interiors are a set.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was James Brolin, whenever they visited the real house, he said that the house interior was way smaller than the set that they had.
Oh, wow.
So it said kind of a more claustrophobic feeling
Right.
that the
Yeah.
family must have felt, if we believe their story.
Right.
Right.
That house is giant.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's huge.
You're like 80 grand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Damn.
god damn, dude.
I really don't want to come off as a dick with all the talk about the Lutzes and the Warrens. Allegedly. And again, I want to see a ghost. I'm not.
Yeah.
I just don't believe them.
But when Kathy gets discouraged with sticky paper that she's trying to set up in the kitchen, they propose that they just get some beers and go outside. They do, and we see the kids playing with their dog Harry next to the river. But at the front of the house, Father Delaney, played by Rod Steiger, knocks on the door. When no one answers him, he just lets himself inside, calling out to the family.
I was like, why is he just walking in there?
Yeah.
I know that you're like,
A priest?
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. This is my home. Don't be doing that.
Well, if God's everywhere, then he should be allowed.
He's not
Well-
God.
Well, I don't know what I'm talking about, dude. I'm not religious. I don't know how
What
this
if I'm
works.
taking a shower or using the
Yeah.
bathroom or something's going on and then you're just walking in and
Could he not hear them in the backyard playing with the dog?
oh yeah, they're
The house is
they're
huge.
outside.
Just shows how big your house is.
Right. But he hears children giggling upstairs and he follows the sound into that spare bedroom.
So now he has probable cause.
Yeah.
Right. From the window, he sees the family outside and he tries to open it, but he can't even get the lock open. He just gets down to business opening his Bible. He does notice that there are a couple flies hanging out on the window, and when he's looking at them, the room door closes shut on its own behind him.
Yep.
He wipes sweat from his forehead.
Now you can't leave, Father.
No, yeah.
Hey, I'd start sweating too.
Yes. We cut to the kids playing fetch with the dog before going back to Father Delaney, who is covered in sweat now. He takes out his, I put sash thing. Can we say stole?
Sure.
Takes out his stole.
What'd they call it in The Exorcist?
I don't know. I don't remember.
I know they mopped up all that green vomit
Yeah.
with it.
They did. I don't think it's sash, but
No.
I just like sash.
Father Cares is like, here, take my sash.
But he puts it on
Right.
and he tries to begin blessing the house, but the flies are like on 11, just buzzing
Yeah.
loud as fuck.
See, here's the thing is that when I first saw the flies, I was like, I think someone left a sugar cube on the windowsill. But as they continue, you're like, okay, no, this is a real...
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
something's happening here.
And they did smear honey on Father Delaney's
face.
forehead, yeah, so that the flies would want a piece of him.
But yeah, there are flies on his face now, and he's distracted from his prayer.
I would honestly be more inclined to do the bees like Tony Todd than the flies.
Are you insane?
Is that insane?
Yes.
I guess I'm
the
insane.
Flies aren't going to
Flies
sting
don't
you.
have sharp
I mean, they're
asses.
going to
Yeah.
throw up on you.
Yeah,
but-
see, that's the thing. Bees don't puke as soon as they land.
I puke as soon as I get up. I'm in good company.
Are we talking about airplanes?
I don't know. I do not know.
Or can you fly?
But he begins to cough as he turns to look at the greater number of flies now. Soon he's doubled over and coughing with flies all over his clothes. We cut to the family literally having the time of their lives, taking off in their boat.
What a cruel
Yeah.
contrast. He's just dying up there.
This is the best day of my life.
And he's like, "Rah, rah, rah." Like, it's bad.
But back in the room, we close way in on the flies doing some fly shit. Father Delaney has flies all over him now, and he is barely moving. The door suddenly opens, and everything goes silent. A voice calmly whispers to him, "Get out." We close up on the flies again, and they're like, "You heard him, bitch. Get out."
Yeah.
He does nothing, and then the voice screams, "Get out!" Father Delaney finally takes the hint and stumbles down the stairs and out the front door, gasping for air at this point.
Well, it's like, fuck off, dude.
Yeah,
Here's
you
your
were. I
chance.
told you nice.
Yeah.
Like I told you nicely,
The kindness to open the door for him.
Yeah.
and out the way you came,
Yeah.
sir. But he barely makes it to his car before coughing and retching, then looking up at the house.
I will say that the get out
Yeah.
sounds very scary.
No, it's scary as hell.
And also, it was the first Treehouse of Horror that
Yes!
I believe.
That's exactly what I was
That's
thinking.
the first thing that I thought of. I was like, oh, this is where they got that. Oh, okay, very good, very good.
I'll allow it. But that night, Kathy calls Amy for dinner, but George finds her passed out in a box. He picks her up and tells Kathy to start dinner with the boys while he puts her to bed.
Passed out in a box. Is this sinister?
Huh.
Yeah.
Again, the influences.
Yeah.
That
Good
kid,
catch.
that kid
Thank you.
looked kind of dead at first. I was like, oh shit, what happened?
Like, that was
We're
fast.
yeah, I was like, right away.
Upstairs, George tucks Amy in and closes her window. We cut to Father Delaney calling the Lutz house. When Kathy picks up, he's still gagging and can barely talk to her.
I don't know why that made me laugh.
Well, it's like, wait until you're done gagging to dial the phone.
Or just go back to the
just
house.
rude.
I don't understand.
I'm
not going back to the house.
Yeah, okay, well. Did you notice that Amy and George are wearing the same shirt?
No.
I thought that was the cutest thing.
It's very cute. And when he picks her up and takes her to her bed, it is dad energy. Like,
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
How long have you been a part of the family?
Yes. I just want, I don't know. And it's something so little and stupid, but
Yeah.
him being like, I wish they just, but then them acting like they do have that relationship. It's just weird. I don't know.
Right.
Contradictory, I think.
There is, whenever the kids are running off to, I guess, dinner,
Yeah.
Margot Kidder smacks that kid's ass
Yeah.
like really hard. I hope that sound was added in post.
But once Father Delaney is done gagging and he's able to talk, static overcomes the line and Kathy can't hear him at all. Father Delaney suddenly drops the phone and recoils from it. He rushes to his sink and runs water on his hand, which now has blisters on the palm of it. He just stares at it in wonder.
The house just told you to fuck off.
Yeah, mind your business.
Yeah,
Leave it
why
alone.
Are you coming? Like what? A little bit of time just passed.
Yeah.
You're still trying again.
It's been a few hours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's the same day. It's the same day.
Oh, yeah, no.
The house is like, yeah, and I mean, don't call
Yeah.
either. That's not fucking
Yeah.
cool.
Trying to be slick.
Yeah.
What part do you not understand?
I do want to point out Father Delaney is based on the priest that visited the house called Father Pecoraro, I think his name was.
Sounds right.
All right.
Close. Yeah.
But Father Pecoraro, his story started like unflinching, and it was something along the lines of this. But then his story changed over the years, like dozens of times.
Yeah.
And I think the worst that he felt, he said, was like flu-like symptoms. But what Father Delaney experiences in this film only makes that hilarious.
Yeah.
Because the movie's like, no, we'll go
No,
another
we're
way.
gonna fucking turn this shit up. But back at the Lutz house, George goes into the kitchen with Kathy. They start to talk about the call, but George seems distant. She asks him if he wants to eat, and he tells her that he's not hungry, and then he comments on how cold it is. After consulting with the thermostat that says it's 72, he remarks that it feels like it's 32. Kathy proposes that it's a draft from the basement, but the whole time we're tight on George's face. He says the house was supposed to be well insulated, and he walks away, leaving her looking concerned.
So it begins already for George.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is their first night here, I think.
Yeah, and he's already acting strange. And I also did want to ask, was a classroom pencil sharpener standard in all houses in the 70s? Or
That's what I told her. I said, damn, this is like Oregon Trail time. Like, the fuck?
He was watching it last night, and he goes, a pencil sharpener.
yeah, just in the dining room? Sure.
That's where kids are supposed to come in, have their milk, and do their homework. It's
All
the
right.
70s, man.
Interesting. George died of dysentery.
So George goes down into the basement. We see a breeze blow past him, even moving his hair. But then, I'm sorry. But then Matt comes to the stairs and somehow completely eats shit, managing to shatter the light bulb as he goes down the entire flight of stairs.
As he's falling, he whacks it with his hand,
I was fucking
and
laughing.
sparks fly.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I rewound that like 5
I
times.
did too.
And I don't know if that's a stunt kid. I don't know what they did.
No.
That made me mad on dad level so much. Because, like, he's just kind of, like, coming down the stairs all slow.
Yeah.
Then falls and slaps the fucking light. I'm like, why did you do that?
Why'd you slap the light?
Yeah, it's like, why? You didn't need to do that.
No.
It's like, are
Killed
you okay?
me.
But why'd you do that? It's like,
Well, he I mean, he fucking eats
Yeah.
shit. He goes down the entire flight of stairs, busts the light bulb. Like you said, sparks were flying. And then George is like only mildly concerned.
He is. Well, he goes, it makes me laugh because he says, stairs are tricky when they couldn't be simpler.
Anyway, he picks Matt up and takes him back upstairs. But man, I was laughing. But later that night in her bedroom, Kathy puts a flower in her hair and starts practicing ballet moves in the mirrored closet doors. She's nearly naked, only wearing an unbuttoned shirt with no bra, underwear, and one leg warmer. George comes in startling her and tells her that he just can't get enough of her.
He scares her and she's like, oh shit, sorry. I was just being very sexy upstairs.
Whoops.
Yeah, my bad.
They start to kiss and they tell each other that they love each other. Then we get a pretty tame montage of them showing each other the flesh on the bedroom floor.
Yeah, but they had... But he didn't even close the door.
He did
No, he
not.
didn't.
Yeah.
He did not. So
So
I'm like, are you new to having kids in the
Yeah,
house? Like, what is happening?
every crossfade, I thought it was going to be over.
No, it wasn't.
It was
No.
like softcore. Like I was
Yeah.
like, is this the Amityville Horror
Yeah.
or is it the Amityville Horny?
Yeah.
Because they were. I mean, it was a long. And this is what I'm talking about. The film being longer.
Yeah, you
It's
didn't
the
need that
Amityville
long.
Horror. That's what it is.
I think I downloaded the wrong movie.
Yeah, my bad. My bad.
I will say when I was watching this the first time, because like you said, it keeps cutting out and then coming. I'm like, God damn.
Yeah.
But I think, and I didn't catch it until the second time I watched it, but there might be a reason for this.
Right.
But we'll talk about it later. But as I said,
I'm gonna need to know.
okay, I'll point it out. I'll point it out.
Okay.
It's not in my notes, but I will remember because when I watched it the second time, I was like, okay, maybe that's what that was about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's the answer, but
Okay.
it's a maybe.
It's a theory.
It's a theory. But after a really long time, I guess the door ended up getting shut because we see the doorknob turn and the door slowly cracks open to reveal Amy rubbing her eyes and asking to go home. Kathy gets up to comfort her and carries her back to her room. Once in her bedroom, Amy grabs her Raggedy Ann doll. Annabelle, anyone? Yeah.
When I saw that, I was like, hey, Nate.
Yeah.
Annabelle's making an
I'm
appearance.
fucking sick of her. Stop shoehorning. Shoehorning?
Oh my God.
I'm still back on the bedroom floor with the let's
Freudian shit, man.
stop shoehorning Annabelle in.
Hey,
But-
is that why the Warrens fucking shoved themselves into this thing?
Oh, because of the
of
Raggedy Ann
Annabelle?
doll?
Yeah.
I was going to say so they could get it in on the bedroom floor.
Get it in. Jesus Christ. Wait, now it's a foursome? dude?
I don't know.
Oh my
no,
God.
not with them.
Oh.
Oh, my goodness, T,
Like-
you're disgusting.
I'm disgusting.
But anyway, Amy grabs her Raggedy Ann doll and just immediately falls asleep. Kathy goes over and closes and locks the window that George had already closed and locked earlier.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She turns out the light and closes the door, but as soon as she does, the rocking chair in the corner of Amy's room starts rocking back and forth. And it's like the second the door closes, it's very
Yeah.
creepy.
I don't like that it's picking its spots.
No,
Right?
no.
Like, what do you care, chair?
Trying to be slick.
Yeah.
I can't let the mom see me. Just weird rules.
But Kathy joins George in bed and he reassures her that they're just going to have to learn to live with interruptions like this. We zoom way in on Kathy's face as she closes her eyes.
Learn to live with interruptions like this. So again, how long?
Yeah, I don't know,
Yeah.
dude. I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
You got matching shirts, but
I'm not I'm not asking for, we have been together for 5 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
because I hate
But-
that shit.
No, that's super annoying, but like anything, any kind of
Yeah.
breadcrumb, because it's not clear.
Yesterday they met. She's like, want to buy a house?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But later, we watch the clock turn from 3:14 to 3:15, and George immediately opens his eyes and gets out of bed, leaving Kathy asleep alone.
So Emily Rose,
Yeah.
this film,
Yeah.
the entire 3 o'clock hour is just out.
It
Right.
is. And I'll sometimes wake up at 3 something and be like,
Yes.
take your ass back to bed. Take your ass. Like, it's scary still.
Get under the blanket. It's kryptonite.
Yes. Well,
We
yeah,
learned.
we discussed that last week.
Never mind. They broke the rules.
But he puts on jeans and stops at Amy's door, hearing whispering inside the room. But when he opens the door, Amy's asleep. But when he looks out her open window, he sees the door to the boathouse banging open in the breeze. I mean, that window's been closed and locked
Yeah.
twice.
Did you see Annabelle is seated in the chair now?
Yes. The Raggedy Ann doll is now seated in that rocking chair in the corner. But that's like creepy on another level because he didn't see her go to bed. So like that's not even weird to him.
Yeah.
Right.
She could have gone to bed with the doll right there. It's very scary.
It's these little... See, this I like.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, so should like we be like, okay, when I put them to bed, this was here. This is like, you know what I mean?
You got to take an inventory of the room now.
Take a photo.
Yeah. It's like when they do in film when they try to match
Yes.
shit to make sure their continuity's fine.
Yeah.
That's how you got to put your kids to bed now.
But George goes out to check the boathouse with Harry the dog, and everything looks normal. He goes back to the main house and sits next to the window in the living room to smoke a cigarette. He lights it, and it's a calm moment until a very pissed off cat hops onto the windowsill, yelling and hissing at him.
Yeah. Why?
I don't know, but George is scared.
He was. I was like, not the cat jump scare.
Yeah.
Although I can't get mad seeing a cat. It's my favorite thing.
Yeah, even an angry cat.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
I'll take it. I can make the cat happy is all I'm trying to say.
The next morning, we get a card that reads 4th day, Thursday. Kathy comes home with groceries to find George sweaty and angrily chopping wood. I don't know if she stopped at like an anime cosplay thing and then went and got groceries. But, I don't know what the outfit was. But
I asked the same thing. I said, what's going on with their outfit? And I was like, I don't.
It was the 70s.
call her ranch
Because she be
because
dressed.
she be dressing.
That's like my favorite joke you've ever told. It was even funnier because you said it about fucking Gage
Yeah.
from
He
Pet
was,
Cemetery.
dude.
The hat.
He was, though.
It was the hat.
He went all out.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, she drops the groceries and comes up behind George and grabs his butt. And he turns and he's like, never do that to a man with an axe in his hand. It's like,
Holy shit.
Wow.
okay. I mean, that's a really specific rule.
Yeah. If he's got nothing
Well,
in
he
his
was
hands,
scared.
grab away.
He
but
was scared. But George does not look well.
But the thing is that he snaps at her like that.
Yeah.
And then just on a dime alternates demeanors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, that's James Brolin. I must say
For sure.
Josh.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the same
They
person.
are, but
That's
James...
Thanos' daddy.
Well, Thanos Sr., he is just such a great actor.
He is.
Yeah.
To be able to do that. The performances really carry this film.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when he was
yeah.
on Roseanne?
What was that about?
I don't know, dude. That last...
That didn't happen.
You're right. It's upsetting, man. Anyway, she's like, I just wanted help with the groceries because she says that he made her drop them, which I don't know that
Yeah.
logic, but he tells her to just let him finish, but she tells him he's chopped more than enough wood. He angrily leaves his work and goes to help pick up the groceries from the driveway. He brings him inside asking who the fancy tea is for, and she tells him her aunt is coming over to celebrate. She's the first one in the family to ever have bought a house, so it's a big deal.
Right.
And this, did y'all notice that?
Oh, God.
I don't know. Margot Kidder like talks with her teeth. Do you know what I'm saying?
Her teeth are used for a lot of consonants.
Like when you would normally use lip, it's
Yes.
teeth.
And it's funny because we always had a running joke about Pam
Jackie
Grier.
Brown, yes.
Yeah, she did it in one scene in Jackie Brown, and so I was like, I think she went to the Pam Grier School of Teeth Acting.
But she did. It was like distracting to me, and I was like, I have to. If I noticed it, I know other people did too.
Yes,
but it was
there's one
very
scene
funny
that
to me.
comes later that is
There's this scene, and then she does it egregiously later,
Yeah.
and I was like, dude, I don't even hear what you're saying.
No.
Like I'm just looking at your teeth,
and I'm like, am I a jerk? I don't think so. I don't think I'm a jerk.
Anyway, I just had to get that out of the way because I've noticed that ever since I was a kid. But I don't know how you say why. Why does she? It's talking with you. You know what I'm saying, right?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
It makes perfect sense.
Anyway, she's the only person to ever buy a house. It's a big deal in her family, and George is still pissed off. He reads this as an inspection that they're not ready for and just leaves the room. Now alone in the kitchen, Kathy starts to look around, seemingly unnerved. And she's like sniffing at the air.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like, did George cut one on his way out?
He was really mad.
Yeah,
dude.
he's like, we're not ready for an inspection, Brant. That's childish, but here's...
Maybe that's the reek of death that
Maybe.
Ed
Oh.
Warren
See,
knocked him to his knees, man.
And that's the thing is that they had said that they would report smelling all kinds of weird shit.
Yeah.
I will also say that according to Snopes in that book, after they did their investigations, there were over 100 inaccuracies
Yeah.
Oh my God.
in the book. So I feel like this one might be one of the more realistic ones.
Right.
It's a new house. Maybe there is something in the walls. Who knows?
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Or George cut one. I don't know.
Or George. Sometimes the right answer is the simplest one.
Yeah.
But when she turns back around, Amy is suddenly standing in the kitchen. Amy tells Kathy that her friend Jody wants to play upstairs.
Nope.
I understand like kids have imaginary friends and
Right.
stuff. But to me, we just moved into this house where all this fucked up shit happened.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little more about Jody. But like tell me in the car as we're driving away from here.
Well, if she didn't have one before the house,
Right.
then now I'd be like,
Say what now?
Yeah,
Yes.
who? But if she already had one before, then it'd probably be like, okay, you're
That's
using
fair.
this as a way to kind of process what's going on or whatever.
It is a big change.
To
It's
help,
stressful,
yeah, to
yeah.
help. To make her feel more comfortable. You know what I mean? I got somebody to play with, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you've never had an imaginary friend, then now
We have an issue.
Yeah.
We have an issue.
I'm not a parent. I know you two are. If any kid I know has an imaginary friend, I'm already scared. That's going to be a house rule for me. No imaginary friends.
But Kathy's cool about it. She's like, well, have fun. And she asks if Jody likes sugar cookies too. Amy looks into nothing and seems to receive a reply that Jody does not like sugar cookies. Kathy just laughs this off and sends Amy on her way. We get an exterior shot of the house with the reddish light coming through those eye windows as we hear a phone dialing.
I love it. Also in the scene with Kathy and Amy, I'm living for all these zooms and the...
Yeah.
It's just my favorite shit. It's just so 70s.
It is. We zoom in on a church and hear Kathy's voice ask for Father Delaney. Father Boland, played by Don Stroud, answers instead, saying that Father Delaney isn't feeling well. We see him sitting next to Father Delaney, who's lying in bed with a bandaged hand. Kathy says that Father Delaney was supposed to come and bless their new house yesterday, but he can just do it when he feels better. Father Boland assures her that it's just a flu situation, but tells her that Father Delaney did come to her house yesterday. She says they waited all day for him, but he never showed up. But like they didn't though. They were out on the boat having the time of their life. But
And
I'd
if
be
you're expecting someone...
yeah, I'd be like,
Yeah.
oh shit. I would feel badly, but she's like, nah, he didn't come.
And I feel like a priest would be punctual.
Right.
So if
Oh,
you tell
yeah.
him to be there at a time and you're out on a boat,
You're kind of the asshole.
who's fucking fault
and
is
they
that?
were
waiting for
drinking.
him.
Y'all
No.
are out there having beer while you're waiting
Yeah.
for the
While
whatever.
he's like, fucking upstairs and shit. I did want to point out Don Stroud, who plays Father Boland. He looked very familiar to me, and I finally placed it. He plays Bill Sharp in Django Unchained, the sheriff.
Holy shit.
At the very beginning.
How cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Isn't that
Very
crazy?
cool. Love Django Unchained.
Great movie.
But she tells Father Boland to tell him that they hope he feels better, and then they just get off the phone. Father Boland looks over Father Delaney, who is sleeping with beads of sweat all over his face. We cut back to the house where a nun holding a flower is crossing the lawn. This is Aunt Helena, played by Irene Daly. I was surprised to see her be a nun.
Yeah.
I'm like, was it just me?
Yeah.
Can I ask why that was shocking? Because I was shocked too. I was like, their aunt's a nun?
Yeah.
Yeah. At first I thought it was like, okay, so somebody from the church is coming back.
That's what I thought too.
And then when I seen the flower, I was like, oh, is this her aunt?
Yeah.
yeah.
I
But
just
it
thought they
wasn't-
sent someone else.
Yeah, it was a little weird. I was like, huh, all right.
But inside the house, the toilet is backing up, and while the family is gagging, we see thick black sludge bubbling out of it.
Is that tar?
I don't
It
know
looks
what
like
it is,
it.
but I want no
Uh,
parts of
Is
it.
it evil concentrate?
George goes to check the toilet in Amy's room, and it's fine until he flushes it. Then black sludge starts to pour out of it as well. Downstairs, Aunt Helena rings the doorbell. Kathy tells Matt and Greg to go let her in, and they go reluctantly, not excited about Aunt Helena's constant pinching. But like when they leave, she's like, no, don't be telling anybody about this. Just as they reach the bottom of the stairs, Aunt Helena busts in, laughing and pinching cheeks. So I guess these church people do not believe in waiting to be let in.
Not so much.
They're reverse vampires. They'll just walk right in.
Well, her I can understand if that's her niece's
Yeah, I
house or that's
guess.
family.
Yeah.
But I mean, dude was
Not the priest.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't know them.
Yeah.
But the boys beat a hasty retreat with Harry the dog out the front door.
I laughed so hard at the kids bailing.
Yeah, they're
They're
like, fuck this.
She'll be down in a minute. Bye. It's like, Jesus Christ.
But Aunt Helena continues to giggle until she takes a couple more steps into the house. Then she immediately stops. The overhead chandelier starts to shake and twinkle loudly, disorienting her. She stumbles into the kitchen and drops her plant as she cries out, and then the chandelier just stops. Kathy comes down, and now sweaty, Aunt Helena is like, I gotta go. She says she's not feeling well. Kathy's like, well, I brought your favorite tea and I'll make you some now. But Aunt Helena says she feels awful. And despite Kathy's protest, she pushes her way toward the front door. George comes down and Kathy's like, make her stay. I'm like, does he want her to beat her ass?
Like, grab her.
The house worked fast.
Yeah.
That was quick.
Yeah, immediately.
She pulled a psychic from Paranormal Activity.
Yes. I cannot help you.
No. In fact, being here at all is bad.
But George does not beat her ass, and she leaves out the front door. She immediately goes to her car and drives away, but once off the property... But once off the property, she pulls over and loudly and violently vomits on the side of the road.
Dude, I laughed so hard.
She's like, what? Dude, it was so dramatic.
So I wonder what it's doing. I mean, god damn.
I don't see. Well, they said flu-like symptoms.
That was a hell of a fucking flu, man.
Why can't you just be congested?
But I guess it's because these people are so ingrained with the church.
Right.
Because, I mean, they're just living there mostly fine at this point.
Right.
But the second they step inside, even the priest got all the way upstairs that night.
Yeah.
It was like, bitch, nope. Mm-mm.
It's like, I thought we told you guys.
Right, I already kicked your friend out.
Right. He should have spread the word. But we get a card that reads 5th night, Friday. While Kathy is painting, so she dances, she paints.
Mm-hmm.
Very talented.
Yeah, but we see George in another room loading wood onto the fire. We're watching him through the flames. I thought it was a really cool shot.
Mm-hmm.
And he puts more wood into the fire and then sits and stares at it. I know I've said it before, but George does not look well.
Yeah,
No.
something's going
Something's
on.
happening.
Yeah.
Finished painting, Kathy comes downstairs to see him. She calls at him from the doorway, but he doesn't even acknowledge her. She asks if he's coming to bed, and he tells her he will in a minute, but the fire had gone out. Kathy asks if he's still cold, and she hopes he's not getting sick. George says he'll be fine because he needs to be healthy for Kathy's brother's wedding. She tells him that he should just sleep in tomorrow, but he's like, I've work to do unpacking. I don't want to be up to my asses in boxes forever.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, dude, damn.
She's on your side.
Right?
Yeah.
We're trying to get you well, but we cut to Kathy lighting a cigarette in the darkness of their bedroom. George turns on the light and we see they're both naked with the sheets over them. George apologizes, saying he doesn't know what's wrong with him. Kathy reassures him that it happens all the time, but George is like, not to me, it doesn't. And this is what I think that extended scene was earlier, because I think we're supposed to be like, nah,
okay.
George be fucking. Like, this
Yeah,
is not
no,
normal.
No,
I think that's what,
It works.
I think that's what this is supposed to be.
Stupid.
That's the film saying that.
Yeah.
Demons.
Remember, we just showed
Yeah,
you. Like,
Yeah. Demons may cause erectile dysfunction.
But she puts out her cigarette and tells him to turn out the light. They say they love each other in the darkness. Later, we get different shots from the house, the living room, the stairs. Finally, Amy's bedroom door opens. Suddenly, Kathy sits up in bed and screams at the top of her lungs before crying out, "She was shot in the head!"
That was jarring.
We're leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you please stop screaming?
I just told you I don't feel well.
Yeah. That broke right through his NyQuil.
Yes. George just wakes up and looks at the bedside clock, and it is 3:15. Wouldn't you be like, are you okay? Like, he's just like, God damn, man.
Every night with this shit.
And then we see the house in this red, like, infrared light situation.
I feel like it's being like the house is like, yeah.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
was shot in the
He's like, this is day 4, motherfucker. Hey, you think that infrared shit, Rob Zombie?
I'm sure.
Oh,
yes.
God.
We'll just say yes.
All right.
But we get a card that says 6th day Saturday. The score plays as Father Boland drives Father Delaney, who's slumped over in the passenger seat. Father Boland asks why this couldn't wait, and Father Delaney tells him he doesn't know. He just knows he has to get back to this house. But like, you've been told.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm losing sympathy. But he just assures Father Boland that he's all right. Suddenly, the steering wheel starts to have a mind of its own. It keeps swerving them into oncoming traffic, and both priests pulling on the wheel narrowly keep them from getting into several accidents. Father Boland stomps on the brake, but the car doesn't stop. The hood flies up, blocking their vision. It's just like, God damn,
Yeah.
dude.
How many times do I have to...
The car flies through an intersection, jumps a curb, and hits a sign, causing it to finally stop. As the horn blares, Father Delaney looks at the windshield to see a fly on it buzzing noisily. The fly's like, we fucking told you.
You've been warned, man.
The fly was insult to injury.
Yeah.
It was just to let him know.
Yeah.
You know?
You know why this happened.
Yeah.
It's like the house, remember?
Yeah.
You did this to your friend. His car's all fucked up now.
I do. Why is this so far reaching?
What, they're driving down the road?
Yeah.
Yes. And why is it why do they hate the priest so much? Like,
They're not done with the priest.
No.
We'll get into it. But back at the house, the boys are decorating the car with the just married sign and cans hanging from the bumper. Harry is barking loudly, blowing up their spot because they're like trying to be slick about it. Inside, Kathy's brother Jimmy, played by Mark Van Hanian, counts and recounts the $1,500 he needs for the caterer. The caterer is only accepting cash.
yeah, I know.
Which is it's a little shady, but Kathy comes in and tells him to relax. He tucks the money away in his coat pocket, and Kathy tells him he looks great. She starts to get choked up, explaining that it feels like just yesterday she was riding him around on her bike, and now he's getting married. He gets up and hugs his sister. George walks in the room and stands in the doorway with his arms crossed. Jimmy tells him that he looks terrible. In fact, George does not look well. Think Guinness when he was pretending not to be sick. He looks fucking bad.
Could a sick man do this?
Kathy says it's just a flu thing going around. Amy has it too. Jimmy says that if George isn't feeling up to the task, he understands, but George says he's the best man and he's ready. The babysitter, Jackie, played by Amy Wright, comes in and asks if she's supposed to give Amy aspirin. Kathy tells her that Amy can take one before bed. She goes over and asks George if she's all right, and he's like, I don't know. Jimmy's starting to panic as he goes through his jacket pocket. The $1,500 that he just put away isn't there. I'm like, now the house is fucking...
Yeah. Fucking pickpocket bullshit. I will say, as soon as this happened, the babysitter did side-eye Jimmy. And I was like, I know George is infested and all, but...
Infested.
My money's on the...
Yeah.
Those wages can't be great.
No,
Yeah.
of course not.
And he's out here just flaunting his
He
$1,500.
was counting it several times.
Yeah.
But he and Kathy start to look for it, Jimmy fully freaking out as he turns out his pockets. Outside, the boys start playing with the horn and George yells at them to stop.
Yeah.
This reminds me of something I read in the Good Housekeeping thing on them, where George was like, you know, before we moved into that house, we never laid a hand on the kids. I was like,
Yeah.
what
Wait,
the
what?
fuck?
Now we're just beating the shit out of them. It's like, what?
I was like, what's the implication here?
They made up the story just to avoid
Yeah.
charges.
Listen.
Ghosts, right?
I was like, God damn. But Kathy says that they need to leave now because they're already late. When Jimmy asks what he's going to do about the caterer, George calmly speaks up. The money has to be here somewhere, and in the meantime, he'll write a check for the caterer himself.
So he's still kind of there, but he's losing
I was
the
like,
battle.
that, even Kathy's like,
Yeah.
like it was very nice.
It was very sweet.
Yeah. I read that they actually were late for her brother's wedding, but because they didn't want to leave the house. It got to the point where they needed to be inside the house at all times. They would not leave the house. They
Wait.
didn't even go Christmas shopping. They made it a point to say.
Wait, so now they love the house?
I don't know, dude.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you the facts that I found on my research.
So this is inaccuracy number 42.
But Kathy hugs George and kisses him, and Jimmy finally calms down. He looks back at the couch one last time before they leave the room.
The scene ends with a zoom that doesn't mean anything.
It was a choice.
Yeah.
It was a choice.
And I was all about these zooms, and I'm like, I think you're over.
Now you're over zooming.
Yeah.
But that night, from outside the house, we see the lights go on in the attic room. Jackie comments on how cold it is and goes to close Amy's window. She tells Amy it's time for her to take an aspirin because it's time to go to bed. Amy says she doesn't want to go to bed. She just wants to stay up and play with Jody. Jackie tells her she has to go to bed early because she's sick, so don't smart off. I'm like,
damn.
okay, listen, lady.
She's like, this house lets me beat you, so.
Amy confesses that she wasn't sick. She just didn't want to eat meatloaf. And she does seem fine.
Yeah.
Jackie walks into the closet, and as soon as she's out of the room, the rocking chair starts to rock on its own. Jackie turns around just in time for the closet door to be slammed in her face. She tries to open the door, but it won't budge. She calls out to Amy, but Amy doesn't answer her. She continues to bang on the door, and she starts to cry. From outside the house, we see the attic lights go out. Back inside, we see that Amy's just sitting on her bed looking at the closet door.
Well, Annabelle got that girl.
Yeah.
And she's like, nope.
I'll handle
Yeah.
it. Don't worry about it. Inside the closet, Jackie continues to sob, her knuckles now bloody and staining the door. Amy just stares blankly as Jackie continues to bang and scream and cry. Finally, the light in the closet goes out and Jackie screams. That was just insult to injury.
It was. So I think we got to agree that the babysitter is overreacting here.
I mean, the door was closed for 2 seconds.
2 seconds. I'm going to bang my hands fucking bloody in 2 seconds and there's nothing in the closet happening.
Yeah.
It's just a closet.
She was upset.
I guess, man. She's like, I'm supposed to brush after every meal or whatever. Like the dentist said. I don't know.
But my headgear.
Yeah, she did have headgear.
She did. But at the wedding, everyone seems to be having a great time dancing around Jimmy and his bride, played by Ellen Sayland. Kathy chats with Aunt Helena, who's still wearing her habit. Like, do they have to wear that all the time? It's a wedding. Put some glitter on it. Do something.
Put some glitter on it?
They can't dress up?
They can't put glitter on it.
That's what they wear.
Yeah. It's honestly a bad habit.
Nah. But Aunt Helena apologizes for her behavior, saying that she doesn't know what came over her, but she barely made it half a block from the house before vomiting. And I mean, she's right.
She's like, no, it made me laugh because she's like, oh, no, I'm fine. I just ralphed in the street. Sorry about that, fam. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Kathy explains it away as a virus. Amy and Father Delaney both have it too. And George, we don't know what's the matter with George.
No. He looks like one of those goddamn ghouls.
Yeah. Something is wrong.
Something's wrong with George. She excuses herself and joins the rest of the party. In the bathroom, George washes his face as he talks to the caterer, played by Eddie Barth. The caterer insists that the deal was cash. George simply explains that the cash is gone and he's going to have to take a check. We see through a crack in the door that Kathy is standing in the hallway listening. As the caterer explains that checks are not cash and why he doesn't like checks, George stands from the sink. He tells him he doesn't like lectures, nor does he like being hassled in the men's room. He's writing him a check, and if that's not good enough, then he can eat his own goddamn food. George does not look well.
He doesn't. And I do want to point out that before they left, he goes, I'll handle the caterer.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll write him a check. It's like the back and forth is a lot.
Happening?
So I was like, he's going to beat the shit out of the caterer.
Well, if he doesn't take the check.
Fair.
I mean, take the fucking check, man. Muttering to himself, the caterer steps out into the hallway and Kathy goes inside and feels George's forehead. George admits that he doesn't think he can make it through the reception. He tells Kathy to go get the boys so that they can leave. So we cut to them pulling up to the house. They go inside and Kathy immediately tells the boys to just go to bed. We see that Jackie is still in the closet, sobbing and banging on the door. George and Kathy hear her and rush upstairs.
Her hands are just bones at this point.
Right? We see them enter the room through the open window, which is another interesting shot.
Yeah.
They open the door to the closet to find Jackie on the floor still sobbing. She says that the door closed and locked and she couldn't get out, but George tells her that there's not a lock on the door at all. To prove her wrong, George closes himself in there and easily lets himself out. I'm like, that does not help. Dude, I would be mad.
Your little demonstration does not matter. She's
It's
like,
insulting.
oh, I wish I had known this 2 bloodless hands ago.
Like, push out.
Oh, you
I was
turned them.
pulling. You should put a sign on that door.
But Jackie comes for Amy, who's still just sitting on the bed, asking why she didn't open the door and let her out. Kathy doubles down, saying that she heard Jackie knocking. Amy's like, Jody wouldn't let me. George is like, who's Jody? And Amy says she's her friend that plays with her. George is like, what exactly are we talking about here? Like, he's fucking fed up.
I want to point this out early. Jody is in this film almost seeming to be a child.
Yeah.
Jody was not a child. I'll save it for what Jody was in real life because it's fucking hilarious.
Right.
And it is touched on in this film.
It's touched on. It is touched on.
Part of their end montage of, oh shit, we forgot.
Yeah, we forgot to add this part.
Yeah, but we'll talk.
But he turns on the boys who are eavesdropping in the doorway, telling them that he told them to go to bed. He tells Kathy, these kids of yours need some goddamn discipline before walking out of the room. Kathy starts to leave to get something for Jackie's hands. And then Amy's like, George yelled at me.
Yeah.
She goes, well, then you should have opened the door. Amy just smiles and says that Jody does not like George.
Man, that girl with the skeleton hand, she should have slapped that little girl. It's like, you what?
Yeah.
She's just smiling about it. It's like, oh,
She
no.
was. She was having a good night. She didn't have to go to the damn wedding.
No. Didn't have to eat that fucking meatloaf.
With the skeleton hand. But George goes down to the living room to look for the money. He looks under the couch and finds a closed $500 band, but the money inside of it is gone.
I swear to God, if that demon has a new chain the next time.
He screams, "Where is it?" And we look at a decorative dragon, and then it fades to black. I was like, that dragon knows something.
Well, I figured it was just a special appearance by Pazuzu. So I was like, hey, but the dragon looks good.
It does.
The dragon did look good.
I assumed the demon spent the money on the dragon.
Oh, hey, there, right. That wasn't there before.
It's got like shifty eyes, like, oh shit.
Maybe they didn't notice I'm here.
It is funny that you bring Pazuzu into this because the fucking, well, that was crude. The book was criticized by bringing in a lot of elements from The Exorcist.
I feel that in the film.
Yeah, you can tell.
Especially later on.
Oh, yeah. And other properties.
Yeah, but you know.
We'll talk.
We get a card that reads 8th day Monday. At a church, Father Nuncio, played by John Larch, tells Father Delaney that there has to be an explanation for everything. Father Ryan, played by Murray Hamilton, chimes in that they just can't be going around and blaming Satan. Father Delaney says that he looked into the murders. He looked into the 20-year-old who murdered his parents and his 4 brothers and sisters. Even at trial, he said he heard voices in the house that told him to do it. He was also in that house and he heard the voices. He felt a presence. He's getting heated, but Father Ryan says that half of murderers say the same thing. The voices made them do it. This is me arguing with you guys.
Well, I just want to say, first of all, Father Nuncio and
Father Ryan,
they should know Father Delaney, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what kind of confused me about this whole scene, because I was like, okay, I get maybe you are trying to cover it up, but you are not acting. You're just acting like you don't believe him or you don't know this dude.
They're like, shut up, science bitch.
It's just, I don't know, it kind of did bother me because they're like, the wheel locked, like all this shit, like mocking this dude. But I'm like, you know him.
Yeah, you should.
And it's funny because they're like, we can't blame Satan. The Satanic Panic is the 80s. We're not there yet.
We're not, that's ahead of us.
Yeah. Soon we can.
But Father Delaney tells him to explain his hand then and explain their car going out of control. Father Bolin says that the wheel locked and Father Ryan is immediately skeptical. He's like, so a mechanical issue.
Yeah.
He goes, there are recalls for parts all the time. Father Delaney understands that it's the fashion now to just cover things up. When Father Ryan says there's nothing to cover up, Father Delaney yells that this is bureaucratical bullshit. I was like,
oh my God.
The other 2 priests are shook, but Father Delaney is not done. He stands up, continuing to yell that he's not some punk kid. He's a trained psychotherapist. He went in that house and what he saw, felt, and heard was real. He has a family in his parish that are in danger. Father Ryan is like, who the hell do you think you are? He yells at him that his secular education doesn't give him the right to question the church. He screams at him to sit down, and after a moment of hesitation, Father Delaney does. When he sat down, I was like, damn it.
Yeah, no, they'd be calling me Father Fisticuffs because you don't fucking tell me to sit down.
What I don't understand is he's telling him this, but he is a priest.
Yeah.
You can't be like, no.
Like you're just some dude that wandered in.
I'm so
I don't
It's
get
like,
it.
What?
I don't get it.
He's your buddy, dude.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about?
And I think that's the other. I do want to point out very quickly, though, that Rod Steiger is acting his ass off.
Oh, yeah, he is. Mm-hmm.
Margot Kidder in an interview said that he believed the story and that he used it to channel into his. Because you can feel his anger.
Yeah.
And it feels legitimate. But even then, here's the thing. I know that I'm probably seen as Father Ryan or whatever in this group.
Yes.
But but if you guys came to me and said, hey, this is what I saw, knowing you know
us.
I would believe you.
Yeah.
This isn't the Warrens talking to me. This is you guys.
Or at least be like, okay, I'll go check it out for myself.
Yes.
Not just sweep it under the rug and be like, you're full of shit.
Yeah. And that's just going to piss this dude off more.
Yeah. As it would anyone.
Yeah.
But Ryan basically tells him that this is hysteria, and even psychotherapists can lose touch with reality. He says that both he and Father Nuncio have seen their share of phenomena, and it never once ended up being Satan.
Did they ask? Or?
Satan, is that you?
Wasn't me.
Father Delaney asks that they understand each other. He explains that the church is his home and his strength. He starts to cry as he says that he needs her now, and so does that family. Father Ryan's like, how long has it been since you've seen your family? Because you need to take a vacation. He and Father Nuncio get up and leave the room. As they walk out, Father Nuncio is like, get a haircut and a shave to Father Bolin.
He looked clean shaven already.
He did. But
Yeah, that's the most pressing issue.
Yeah.
it's like, I like to think that Father Ryan and Delaney are just screaming at each other, and Father Nuncio is just sitting there like, his fucking hair,
Yeah,
man.
I can't handle this. You know what? I'm going to tell him.
I'm saying it. But Father Delaney slumps down in his chair, defeated. Back at the Amityville house, George is back at it again with the wood chopping action, and Kathy watches him from the window. She turns away looking worried. We get a card that reads, the 11th day, Thursday. Carolyn and Jeff, played by Helen Shaver and Michael Sachs, pull up to the house. Did you recognize her as Nancy's mom from The Craft?
I have it written down. I was going to blow your mind with it, but your mind is already blown.
My mind's already blown.
Yeah, I was like, that's Grace Downs.
They get out of the car to admire the house. Carolyn saying that she thought they owned a small business, but Jeff tells her that it's growing. As he speaks and they look up at the house, the smile vanishes from Carolyn's face. She says that she doesn't want to get any closer and starts taking steps back. Her eyes fill with tears, and she says that the house gives her the creeps before just getting back in the car. Jeff continues onto the property alone with the box. He finds George sharpening his axe in the yard. Jeff's like, I don't want to bother you. He says the line is always busy and nobody has seen George in days. He hasn't even signed the payroll checks that he was supposed to. Jeff takes the checks out of the box and tries to give them to George, but George is just focused on the axe. He absently asks what day it is, and Jeff's like, it's Thursday. George seems surprised by this, but just continues sharpening the axe. And he's like, man, they should have been paid yesterday. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm here.
That's the point, George. Jeff says that also a caterer has been calling, complaining that he wrote him a personal check that bounced.
Dude, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's
The
why he
check
doesn't
bounced.
take checks.
Yep.
He's like, new policy.
Yeah.
No checks from ghouls. No.
Not from ghouls.
Wow.
He says that also someone from the IRS has been calling.
So yeah, there you go.
And
Yeah. He's like, if only someone could write a book with you guys.
you'd probably be able to get yourself out of this mess.
Yeah.
But George stands and grabs up the axe, angrily asking Jeff if he has any good news. George does not look well. Jeff says that he brought him the spotlight for his boat and he'll put it on for him. George smiles at this and they start toward the boathouse, but George stops and just fucking throws the axe, priest from Prince of Darkness style, into the tree.
It's like, Cristo Domino. Fucking throws it.
I was like, that was impressive,
Dude,
man.
I'm sorry, but fucking Art Garfunkel should have been way more impressed by that throw.
It's like, wow, man.
Where Thanos got his skills from.
Yeah.
On the other side of the house, Matt and Greg are lowering a fake spider with a fishing pole onto Amy. She sits on the ground outside, giving her dolls the business, telling one in particular not to be a smartass.
Yeah.
She's like, I never hit my dolls before we moved in this house. She sees the boys and calls up to them to stop teasing her. Kathy walks in the room and they both turn to her, pulling the fake spider back inside like, we wasn't doing nothing.
Dude, she caught them like George with the marble rye. I don't mean to keep bringing up George Costanza, but...
No, bring him up. Bring him
All right,
up.
he is my favorite.
She asks what they're doing in her room, and the window immediately slams down on Greg's hand. He screams, causing George and Jeff to come running back toward the house. They enter the room, and all of them, George, Jeff, Kathy, Matt, try to raise the window, but it won't budge.
That kid's hand exploded.
Yeah,
Wow.
Like,
it was bad.
it was real bad. It was like some Evil Dead shit.
He was messing with Jody's homegirl.
That's it.
Yeah. She's, stop teasing
Yeah.
you? Bet. With their van parked outside of a hospital, we zoom in on the statue of, I think, the Virgin Mary that's sitting on the Lutz's dashboard. We pan out and watch them leaving the hospital.
I do want to say that when his hand was crushed,
Yeah.
those tears were flowing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They probably broke
I
his
was,
hand.
I was like, did they really crush that
This
kid's
was
hand?
the 70s, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Don't tell him, but we're going to ruin his hand.
George is carrying Greg and his hand is wrapped up. When they get to the car, George says it's amazing that he didn't break one bone. That night, a storm rages outside. Kathy whispers to George, who is asleep, asking if he's awake. And I'm like, just let that man sleep. He does not look well.
No. But she's like pretty weird about those bones, right? It's like you had all day to talk about that. Why are you going to wake him up now?
But she does whisper, ask him, isn't it strange that none of the bones were broken in Greg's hand? It's funny to me that because we just heard George say this, and now 2 seconds later, she's like, nah, but about them bones, though.
Yeah, we just heard that.
She pleads that she needs to talk to him, but George continues to sleep. Kathy finally lays back down and we zoom in on George's face and he opens his eyes. He's like, I'm not in the fucking mood, man.
Is that enough?
Later, the clock goes from 3:14 to 3:15 and we hear the sound of a fly buzzing. George wakes and gets out of bed, leaving Kathy sleeping alone.
Was that his alarm setting?
I guess.
Well, I guess I'm awake.
He goes into a room and switches on the light. There are flies covering the window and they're on the ceiling and the wall. The buzzing is loud. George tries to open the window to let the flies out, but he can't. Flies just start crawling on him. The door starts to creak as it shakes back and forth. Finally, we hear a huge crack of thunder and the front door to the house is blown off the hinges.
Did the flies do that?
I thought that was a lot, man.
I'm going to be honest. That is the last thing I expected to happen.
Well, no, we're immersed in the flies.
Yeah.
And then it's just, oh, okay.
And again, this is a story that they told.
Oh.
They said that this happened.
Kathy runs into the hallway and she follows George downstairs, refusing to stay behind when he tells her to. And it's funny because there's not one fly on George.
No.
He just left the room. But she stands behind George as he inspects the door. The storm is just over now. They're startled from behind and they turn to see Amy standing there. George is like, God damn it, don't sneak up on me.
He's like, you're located at my axe.
He tells Kathy to call the police as he goes upstairs to check something. She scoops Amy up and hugs her. Back upstairs, George goes into the room to find the fly window open with nary a fly around. He closes the window. Later, police officers, including Sergeant John Frito, are at the house. He lights a cigar and asks one of the cops what's going on, but the cop doesn't know. He goes inside and is introduced to George and Kathy, but stops and takes a long look at George. The other cop tells him that the same thing happened to the basement door that happened to the front door. George menacingly leads the sergeant down into the basement. I would not go into that basement.
No, it's like, we can talk from here.
He inspects the door, which also looks ripped right off the hinges. Harry is in the basement and George asks him what he's doing down there, but Harry is whining and scratching at the floor. Harry's the dog, if you'll remember.
Yeah, I remember.
Okay.
No, it's one of the kids.
When George says they've only lived there for a couple weeks, the sergeant asks him if he's related to the family who lived here before because he looks a lot like them.
Mm-hmm.
George screams at Harry to stop his scratching, and Harry does for a moment, but runs right back to the same spot, scratching again and growling now.
Your dog's trying to tell you something, dude.
Listen.
The animals always know.
They always know. They come back upstairs and the sergeant asks if there have been vandals around because the doors were broken from the inside. When burglars break in, the doors are broken out. Aren't they
Wait,
broken in?
yeah.
Yeah. I was like,
You sure you're a cop, man?
I think this dude just shows up
Is
at
that
crime
badge
scene.
made of chocolate?
George says someone broke into the house, heard him coming, and ran off. The sergeant asks who broke the basement door then. George says they must have come from the cellar and ran out the front door. The sergeant says no windows are broken down in the basement, though.
Aren't you supposed to be solving this?
Right?
George Lutz is
And
not your partner.
No. And why would they break down the front door when they could just open it? And George does not have an answer for that. The sergeant tells them he'll put a watch on their house and to call if anything else happens as George fiddles with the broken part of the staircase. It was odd to me that they put a watch on the house.
Yeah, that is a little strange. Well, here's one thing that I did want to point out. I think it was in the New Republic, I read that the Lutzes actually never called the police. It wasn't until we'll talk about the end of the story.
Right.
But they said, don't you think that if your front door exploded, you would call the police?
Well, yeah.
Like, you know?
I'd call the police about the flies.
Yeah.
It's like, get rid of these flies.
This is unacceptable.
But even the neighbors, they interviewed some of the neighbors and they were like, their door never exploded.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an easy thing to fact check.
Yeah.
If you look across the street and your neighbors don't have a front door,
You're going to notice.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. But again, that's one thing I give to the film is they're being very faithful to the story the Lutzes told.
Yeah.
So, as a story, and again, if this shit's happening, it is very scary.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. But once the cops are gone, George sits on the porch and Kathy, crying, sits down beside him. She begins to sob and George comforts her. She asks why everything is going wrong and tells him that they need to do something. From across the street, the sergeant lights another cigar and watches them from his car. I was like, by put a watch on, you mean like you're sitting across the street and watching the house.
That shot, I was like, is he doing this?
Yeah.
It's like, I bet if I crush one more kid's hand, I bet.
He's the ghost.
Yeah, I'll get to buy the house.
We get a card that reads 12th day, Friday. We zoom in on the reddish windows of the attic. Inside, Amy tells Kathy that Jody told her everything's going to be better. Looking a little rough, Kathy asks Amy what Jody looks like. Instead of answering, she just says that Jody's nice and that she tells her things. She says that Jody told her about the little boy that used to live in her room, but he got hurt and died. This is when you got me fucked up.
Yeah.
This is why you should have asked detailed questions about Jody.
Does she like cookies?
Oh, no.
No, fuck the cookies, man.
So she hates sugar cookies.
Get the fuck out of there.
It's like, well, did she tell you about a dead boy?
Yeah. Kathy looks horrified and asks what else Jody has told her. Amy says Jody wants her to live here forever so that they can play together. Again, you got me fucked up.
Big problem.
Outside, George gets on a motorcycle that I didn't know he had and takes off.
They're just making him look like a badass, dude.
Harry's tied to the porch and is freaking out. We see George riding down the street just expressionless. At the house, Kathy sends the kids off, telling them to be home by 3:30, but then she looks back up at the house. George leaves town hall with blueprints in his hand. He puts it on his bike and takes off again.
Here's the problem with that. The blueprints are very important.
Yeah.
I don't remember them coming up again in the
do
house.
not think they do. But okay.
Because there's a big reveal later that matters with the blueprints.
Yeah, no.
He didn't even tie him down or anything.
No.
He just placed him there. And then
He's
took off.
so cool that those blueprints are not going anywhere. They're like, yes, sir. We catch up with George at the library, and he does not look well. He looks through the books before picking one up with the crucified Jesus on the back of it. He scans it for a moment and then just fucking steals it.
Yeah, you could have checked it out.
Why-
dude.
Library.
Yeah, why not just check it out?
I don't know, but I was laughing. It was so unnecessary.
The way that he walks, he's like, oh, don't mind me. Inconspicuous, smelly man, clearly possessed. It's fine.
Back at the house, Kathy is making another phone call, pleading with someone to answer. We see that the phone is ringing in Father Delaney's room. He stands listening to it ring and looks at his bandaged hand. He finally answers it and she breaks down in tears, telling him she has to talk to him. He tells her to listen to what he has to tell her, and static drowns out his voice.
Is that what he had to say?
Yes. In his office, Father Delaney is red-faced and gasping for air. What part do you not understand?
The house is like, we're going to have to make an example out of you.
I did not want to have to do this.
No.
I even opened the door for you.
Yeah, we started polite.
In her kitchen, Kathy cries and begins to pray. A breeze goes over her, moving her hair. She looks around and is distracted by a sound. There's a man knocking on the window. She goes over to him and he says that everyone just wanted to come and welcome her to the neighborhood. But he's the only one there and he's holding a 6-pack of beer.
Yeah.
Kathy just locks the door and then the phone rings. She goes to answer it, but it's only static and then a dial tone. Kathy goes back over to the door, but the man is gone.
Yeah.
Why was this sequence so frightening to me?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because him not being there, I was like, I'm scared.
Yeah. Was that even real?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know what any of that was.
What if it should have been one of those reveals where he turns around and there's like the back of his head's blown out?
This is the Sixth Sense.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, yeah, we're all coming from across the street, and you see the back of his head. Oh my God.
We cut back to George. It's darker outside now, and he pulls up to a bar. He goes inside where Jeff greets him, relieved that he wasn't stood up.
He's like, hello, darkness, my old friend.
George tells him not to give him any shit because he doesn't have time for it right now. Jeff's like, relax, man, and orders them a beer.
After my first meeting with George yesterday,
Yeah.
and the way my wife reacted to the house,
Yep.
Yeah.
I'd be meeting, honestly, well, you know what? Never mind. I would be meeting him at a bar.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would meet him at a public place, and I would definitely try to get him away from the house.
Yes.
But the thing is that we have a very limited knowledge of George pre-house,
Uh-huh.
but he seemed like a cool dude.
Very
Right.
much. He has that motorcycle.
And so he has, I mean, clearly he's a cool dude. So Jeff, I feel like if this is your business partner, you know him at least a little bit.
Right.
Mhm.
And even at the house, he was just like, George, no, you got to sign the, like, I would be like, what the fuck is
Yeah.
wrong with
Yeah.
you? My friend, what the hell is going on? Like, that's how I am. But he's just like, hey, man, you came. Let's have
Yeah.
some. Like, what? This man does not look
He is
okay.
clearly
I
unwell.
don't understand.
I know it's nitpicky or whatever, but him just being like 2 beers. It's like, what kind
What
of beer?
kind of beer?
Yeah,
That's
what
true.
if you get me something shitty I don't like?
Yeah.
And like you said, if they should know each other, he should know what he drinks.
True.
Yeah.
2 good beers, please.
The bartender's like foreign, domestic. Like,
Yeah,
what the fuck
do
are
you
you
want?
talking about? I do want to point out that the bar's name is the Witch's Brew.
Oh, very cool.
Great name.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll save that. There's more coming in a second.
All right. But he asked George if he's okay because he looks terrible. The bartender, played by Hank Garrett, comes over, but drops the beer when he sees George. He tells him he looks just like that kid. In fact, that kid was sitting right where George is sitting now when he got arrested. Jeff asks what he means, and the bartender's like, that kid, the one that lived in the house down by the river and killed his entire family last year.
Like,
I
holy
was
shit.
like, that's a lot. That's a whole lot.
It was a lot. Yeah. But I did want to point out, this is where I'll say it. The bar that Ronald DeFeo went to was called Henry's, I believe. Mm-hmm. And he did, like, the day after the murder, motherfucker just went
he
to
told
work.
on himself. Yeah.
And then after work, he goes to a bar and he busts in. He's like, I think my parents have been shot or whatever.
Yeah.
But I did look, and in all fairness, James Brolin does look a lot like Ronald DeFeo.
He does.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for what it's worth.
I wouldn't think they were the same person.
No, not enough to drop the beer.
Because he drops the beer and then he says all that and then he's like, no offense. And then goes to get more beer.
No
Like, what the
offense. I
fuck?
mean, you look like who you look like.
Right? I told a coworker one time that she looked like Casey Anthony because she looked just like Casey Anthony and she got very upset with me.
Well,
So maybe people don't want to hear that.
I mean, in all fairness, you're not saying you look like what Casey Anthony is capable of.
She looked just like Casey Anthony. Like,
Looking like Casey Anthony is probably the best thing about Casey Anthony. If we're honest with ourselves.
but George is like, I gotta go. We can talk another time. But Jeff tells him no, they need to talk now. He says the business is falling apart. People keep calling and their bills need to be paid. He's like, I know you're busy unpacking, but life goes on. George warns Jeff not to push him because he does not have the patience. But Jeff is done. He tells him that he knew this would happen, and he already told George he was taking on too much. Marrying a woman with 3 kids, buying a house with a giant mortgage. He changes his religion and then forgets about his business obligation. Now, the changing religion part, I wish we could have gotten a little more on that.
Fair. What if that was something that they had as a bond?
Right.
Yeah.
And now they don't have it anymore because he changed to her religion, maybe?
That's what I'm assuming.
Because I'm assuming...
Well, I mean, her family, her aunt is a fucking nun.
Yeah.
True. And if she's a devout Catholic, and she did call a priest to bless the house the first thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. Although that is a low blow,
It's mean.
It is.
I
right?
don't know how else to say it. That was a lot.
He's like, and now you're Catholic.
You're
It's
marrying
like,
this dame.
yeah, it's like, what the fuck? What year is it?
3 rugrats running around. It's like, what the fuck, man? Jeff, please.
You know, Kennedy was president, right? We've gotten past that hurdle. He's like, and she's Irish or whatever.
It's like, good
It's like,
Lord,
Jesus Christ.
sir.
Jeff, I thought you were cool. I mean, you don't have a motorcycle, but
But as cool as
Not
one
that
can
cool,
be,
huh?
yeah,
Yeah.
without a motorcycle. But George stands up and punches Jeff off of his bar stool. Jeff accepts it and is like, can we talk now?
I thought it was going to be like my lawyer, like that.
So did I.
Well, he knew that he overstepped his
He did.
bounds.
he
Yeah.
did. That was too much.
He earned that punch.
But George helps him up and apologizes. Him apologizing, I'm like, okay, maybe
There's some of you
Yeah.
left.
maybe George is in there somewhere. But back at the house, Amy is singing that Jesus Loves Me song. It could just be called Jesus Loves Me. I don't know.
Yeah.
But Kathy peeks in at her from the hallway, smiling. Just before she goes into Amy's room, we see that she's sitting on a rocking chair across from the one in the corner. She's rocking in hers, but the empty one is rocking too. Mm-hmm. Very creepy.
Very cool visual.
Yes. But Kathy comes in and the chair's like, and just stops.
Yeah, Jody's like, oh, fuck. Just bails.
Cheese it.
Yeah.
But Amy tells her that she scared Jody. Kathy's like, there's no one in the chair. But Amy says she was scared and went out the window. Kathy goes over to the window and jumps back when she sees 2 eye-like dots in the darkness outside staring back at her. This is where we get the
Yeah.
psycho score.
The stolen psycho score.
I read that Stuart Rosenberg was mad at Margot Kidder because her reaction wasn't big enough here. She didn't look scared enough. But she said that he kept... Like, I mean, we can let the cat out of the bag if we want now, but he kept holding up a pig in the window and she was supposed to be scared of it and she kept laughing.
Well, I mean, how the fuck are you not supposed to? When I saw this, I was like, oh, so Jody's the Mothman.
Yeah.
I was like, cool, dude. She's like, chapstick.
Wake up, number 37.
Oh my God. What a specific nightmare. We got to cover the Mothman
We
prophecies.
have to. We keep talking about it.
But yeah, I did think that was an odd thing. We'll talk more about that later, though.
Yes, we will.
So Jody's real, though.
Oh, clearly.
For sure.
That's the only thing that's real.
But back at the bar, although he still doesn't look well, George is lucid enough to tell Jeff what's going on at the house. Carolyn has joined them and searches through George's stolen library book. He tells them about the flies, the doors, and mentions Greg's hand incident that Jeff was present for. He says that last night the door was ripped off the hinges from the inside.
Sure, Jan.
Carolyn stops on a picture of a house in a book that reads The Ketchum House. She speaks up that it's all right here. It's history. John Ketchum. He was run out of Salem for being a witch. His house was built exactly where George's house stands now. She says he's living on some sort of special ground of devil worship, death, and sacrifice. She tells him that it's one simple rule. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only change forms. Jeff's like, you sound like a psycho weirdo. It's like, dude, isn't this your wife? Like,
Yeah.
she's never said anything like this before. But she tells him not to be such a hardcore rationalist. Not everything in life can be explained. T.
Look, most things can be explained. I will say that's a great line about energy, though.
Yeah.
And
Jeff-
again, I'm like Fox Mulder. I want to believe. I don't know why I have this bad reputation like Joan Jett. Everything is
Not
like
Joan
something.
Jett. Jeff just yells at her to shut up, and George is just watching them like a tennis match back and forth.
I do find it odd that someone was run out of Salem instead of killed for being a witch.
True.
Yeah.
Maybe, well, he was a man.
Well, some men died.
Yeah.
You ever read The Crucible?
Cover to cover.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little rude the way he told her to shut up.
It was incredibly rude.
You could have just said, "You're scaring my boss."
Yeah.
You didn't-
You're going to get me fired.
yeah.
But Jeff offers a rational explanation. Go home, get cleaned up, and take Kathy out to dinner. Leave the kids in the demon house. It's fine.
Yeah. Because it was fine last night when we left
Yeah.
the babysitter and...
He volunteers himself and Carolyn to watch their kids. He says he needs to get away, even if it's only for a couple hours. When he gets back, they'll talk through everything. George agrees, saying, let's go home. At the house, Jeff and Carolyn pull up next to George on his bike. He tells them to follow him inside in a couple minutes after he's had a chance to talk to Kathy.
I don't think that he can explain to her what he's learned in a couple minutes.
Yeah.
He's like, just hang tight. Count to 30 and then
Yeah.
follow me in there. Carolyn starts to walk toward the house, but Jeff stops her, saying that George told them to wait outside and he thought this place gave her the creeps anyway. She remarks that she wants to see it for herself and that the vibes here are strong. It pulls you.
It's got big steam.
Yeah, but huge steam. She says she needs to see the basement, and since she's sensitive and knowledgeable about these things, she knows that that's where it's coming from. Inside, Kathy defensively is like, it wasn't a cat. He says he doesn't have all the answers, but they need to get some perspective. He asks her to take Jeff's offer so they can get the hell out of here for a couple hours. I would feel weird about leaving my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, we're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to point out, though, I am glad that Kathy saw something,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
because if it kept going on more and more that we don't know what Jody is, we don't know all this stuff,
Yeah.
it's just going to get tedious and ridiculous because your husband is turning into a ghoul before your very eyes.
He really is. And you're like, man, he's got the flu.
Yeah, he's had the flu for 2 months now.
Since we moved in.
Yeah.
But he says they'll get dressed and go, but he's got to check the fire first. It's like, you're talking a lot about that
Yeah.
fire.
It's been his only...
Yeah. Carolyn and Jeff let themselves into the basement. Carolyn whispers that demons are smart. They think just like humans do, but in reverse. She says it's a closed system, and Jeff's like, you're giving me the creeps.
Yeah.
Well, then that would make them smarter than us if they can think backwards.
Yeah.
I barely think forwards, man.
She's super hyped to find that humming. Like she's
She
like, what
is.
is that? What is that?
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't you be? Well, I'd be
I
scared.
don't know.
She talks about a tribe of Native Americans called the Shinnecocks that use this land as an exposure pin. They put all the quote unquote crazy people here and left them to die. Harry is still scratching at that same spot on the floor. Jeff moves him out of the way, but Carolyn seems to feel faint and tells him that that's where it is. There are people buried there.
Now, I do want to point out before we go further, and I'm hopefully not getting annoying with this stuff, but I did read in the New Republic that the tribe in question was nowhere near Amityville at the time that they're claiming.
Well,
And they also would not treat people the way that they claimed
I know.
they did.
I was like, that
I
is
doubt that.
fucking awful.
That's really, really, really
So why would they
ridiculous.
name check them specifically?
I think that someone writing a book very hastily to make some money didn't do the research necessary. And here we are.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Take a lot.
Take a lot.
But back upstairs, George comes in with firewood. In the basement, Jeff cleans Harry's paws, and we see that he's scratched them bloody.
Yeah.
And very sad. In the bathroom, Kathy stares at a music box as she gets ready. In the basement, I feel like we're just going back and forth.
Yeah.
Carolyn grabs a tool and just starts breaking a wall. Jeff tries to stop her, but she tells him it has to be done because that's where the room is. George comes in and is like, what the hell are you doing to my house? Carolyn explains, and George goes over to the wall. He says she's right. There is something there.
He just waves his hand over it.
He's like, oh, I
Just
feel
goes
it too.
with it.
He's like, I've got the shine now.
He takes the tool from her and starts breaking the wall. We can immediately see a red light coming from behind it. Kathy comes downstairs and asks what's happening, but George breaks a hole in the wall and she stops. George stops breaking the wall and stares into the hole in shock. He sees a reflection of his face in the red brick of a staircase behind the wall, but it disappears. I read something very interesting. That's his brother. Because the director wanted it to look like him, but not exactly be him.
That's smart.
And he found out that, something about those Brolins, they all look fucking the same.
Oh, yeah.
So they put a fake beard on James Brolin's brother, and that's it.
I did want to say, because I knew it looked very much like James Brolin.
Yes.
But the fake beard threw me.
Yeah.
Because I'm
Yeah.
like, he clearly has a real beard.
Yeah.
I don't know why you would do that.
It was
that
a reshoot.
Yeah. Yeah, it was the next year. But yeah, that makes perfect sense. I do want to say I love this red room.
Yeah.
I
And
love
it's scary as fuck.
the concept of it. Again, it could have been fleshed out a little better if he had looked at the blueprints or something.
Yeah, the blueprints that he went and got.
Yeah, because that's the whole thing about this
They could have
room.
even done that in
Right.
the bar.
Yeah. To
I don't
say, once they find it, that's not anywhere on the, because that's scary.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Carolyn remarks that they come and go through here. She begins to shake and her mouth opens wide in terror before she speaks in a hoarse voice that isn't her own. Find the well. It's the passage to hell. She screams, cover it! And then she covers her ears. I read that a lot of people think that she was possessed in this moment.
Right.
Well, but she interprets it that as a clairvoyant, she was just overcome.
Right.
But it really reads as possession.
But here's the thing, though, is that she's saying this stuff. First of all, it's very Evil Dead.
Right.
Yeah,
I know
is.
that is, well, it was filmed in 79, Evil Dead.
Yeah.
But it didn't come out yet. But I remember intercut shots of Father Delaney, like he's like warging out.
Well,
So I assume that this is supposed
Yeah.
to be him. I don't know how he's channeling his own.
That's what
Right.
I'm like, is this Father Delaney's voice?
That's what I thought, because later what Kathy asks George.
Okay.
So I'm like, I think this has to be.
It is.
Right, right.
It's just a little confusing.
Fair.
But she does cover her ears, and we see Father Delaney in the same position in his room, covering his ears and covered in sweat. His phone rings, and he answers it, and as soon as he whispers hello, there's a dial tone. The house is like, I'm
dude.
sick of it.
He's like, you found
Father.
another way in. We don't like it.
Fucking, that means no coming over, no
Yes.
calling, and no fucking possessing either, Father.
If you warg out, I swear to God.
Back in the basement, smoke starts to come from that hole in the wall. Harry goes over and sniffs it, but then he's like, nope, and takes the fuck off. He growls at it from the staircase.
I laughed at Harry because he's been trying to get in there the whole film.
He's like, I knew it.
You know what? Maybe I don't want
Yeah,
him there.
no.
Never mind.
Upstairs, Kathy tells George that she knows he heard the voice and asks who it is.
That's where I was like, she knows that it was
Yeah.
Father Delaney.
But George, again, does not look well. He does not answer. She pleads to him that they need to do something. Across the street, we see the sergeant still just sitting in his car, watching
Yeah.
the house and drinking coffee.
I just don't get this.
This angle,
Yeah.
I don't either. Back inside, we see that the crucifix on the wall has turned itself upside down.
So we're talking about The Conjuring.
Yes.
Another thing that I did think of in that moment is that it kind of makes me laugh that in these situations, the demon sees the regular crucifix and he's like, oh, no.
we're not doing this shit.
And then he turns and he's like, ooh, that's a lot better for me, honestly.
George takes it off the wall and cleans it off with his filthy shirt. From the car, the sergeant sees their shadows moving around in the living room. Inside, they're walking around from room to room with the crucifix and praying, trying to bless the house on their own. When they pass under the chandelier, it starts shaking and jingling. They go up to the flies room.
The flies room?
At this point, the room belongs to the flies.
I just love that it's...
And suddenly, George drops the crucifix. When Kathy goes to pick it up, there are huge blisters on the back of her hand. She screams and runs into her bedroom, and when she inspects her face in the mirror, they're on her face too. And she breaks down sobbing in the mirror.
Well, that mirror was her sexy safe space, and now...
It was, and it's ruined.
Yeah, the whole house is ruined.
I will say that George Lutz said that one night when Kathy was asleep, he watched her age into a 90-year-old woman.
Okay, that comes up later.
Yeah.
And it's the fucking weirdest thing. Because it's never explained.
I have no explanation for this in the film.
No. Well, right now we just got some blisters.
Yeah.
Well,
I think...
which were weird because she wasn't rubbing her face on the crucifix.
No, and she didn't pick it up with the back of her hand either. So
I think at this point, it's safe to say we are not qualified to handle this.
not
Yes.
at all. And the priest won't come over. So it's time to just leave.
And can I just say, honestly, the plot line of the priest and the plot line of the Lutzes never really marry.
No, they don't.
It's a very
That's
odd,
weird.
it's almost like two movies.
I don't understand the blisters. The house is like, keep fucking playing with me and see what happens
they're
to
like,
you.
look, we've mastered the makeup technique for the blisters. I know we already used it for Father Delaney. What
I want to
if?
use it.
Yeah.
I want to
Got
use it
more.
again. Though.
Exactly. This is independent film. We know what we're doing with the blisters.
But we get a card that says 17th day, Wednesday. At the church, Father Boland tells Father Delaney that ever since he's come back from Vietnam, Father Delaney has played a huge role in his life.
Dude, Father Delaney loses his
Father
shit.
Delaney's like, what's your fucking point?
Yeah,
Well, he
he-
doesn't say fucking.
yeah,
but
no,
he's like, he has no patience.
The thing is that what he says is so positive. Ever since I've come back from Vietnam, you've been an important influence in my life. And he goes, and what's your point?
Yeah, fuck off.
I'm like, oh my God.
But he says that he understands fear from having experienced it himself and that we all create our own demons in our minds. Father Delaney looks at him tearfully and Father Boland apologizes. They go to the front of the church and begin to pray. But just as he prays for health and mind and body for his family and friends, an angel statue on the ceiling starts to crumble. Father Delaney starts to get louder and more aggressive, yelling directly at the crumbling statue. And Father Boland just looks at him concerned.
Yeah.
One of the pieces falls down toward Father Delaney and he shields his face and starts to scream. Father Boland goes over to comfort him and Father Delaney, with wide eyes, says that he can't see. He's blind.
I just want
Why
to
are you
point out
laughing?
again, flu-like symptoms. And the
Now
movie's
he's-
like, blind him. It's like, what? And again, you're in a church.
Yeah.
What's this demon's powers?
Yeah, shouldn't he be safe?
One would think.
But we look up at that crumbling statue and it is completely normal and unbroken.
I liked that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot because Father Boland was just like, what the fuck, man? He's
Yeah.
just looking at him.
He's
instead of-
watching as nothing's happening
Yeah.
except homeboy freaking out.
and he's like, in mind and body. Like he's fucking going
Well, the
off.
house warned him enough.
It did.
Like,
You
how
can't-
many times?
You've been told to know
Yeah.
your place. But we get a card that reads 18th night, Thursday. The sun is setting and that eerie red light is shining through the attic windows again. Inside, we see the clock turn from 3:14 to 3:15. George wakes up in a chair in his bedroom and leaves the room. Kathy's still asleep in the bed. He goes downstairs hearing a drum beat.
See, now we're going with the tribal thing just because that lady said so.
Oh, yeah.
That's offensive, right?
It is.
Okay.
But when he goes into the living room, the drumming stops. Again, George does not look well.
No.
He trips over the dragon statue, and it looked really funny because he shouldn't have. But he looks around, finally flat out asking, what do you want from us? He yells that this is his house. And I think we touched this with Mika and Paranormal Activity.
Yeah.
Your dick is not bigger than the demons. Doesn't matter if you think you own this house. Get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Every demon's hanging dong. Everyone knows that.
Every single one. But he picks up a rolled rug and starts laying it out on the floor. Again, to me, it looked hilarious.
Well, it was the way his legs were.
Yeah.
It was like monkey.
He was like spider walking towards the camera. Like they couldn't have. Did they block this?
But in the bedroom, Kathy wakes up as thunder cracks. She goes into Amy's room. We see that the rocking chair is rocking as soon as Kathy opens the door, and she immediately screams, "No!" We see that Amy is bloody and dead in her bed, and George is standing over her with his axe. He comes for Kathy, splitting the top of her head open with the axe, and Kathy suddenly wakes up in her bed.
Great fucking nightmare.
It's a lot.
No,
it is
it's
a
good.
lot,
It
and
looks
it's
cool.
abrupt.
Yeah. It's very jarring.
Yeah.
Very surprising. First of all, again, this is the 1970s. You don't see a lot of dead kids in movies.
No.
So honestly, even in 2021, I was surprised to
You're
see
like,
that.
holy
Yeah.
I was
shit.
like, fuck,
yeah.
they're really going for it. And then when he connects with the axe,
Oh yeah.
And the blood sprays.
yeah, you see it spray. It's like that big tomato on Skinner's ass. It was a lot, dude. I was honestly very impressed by this.
Yeah, for sure. But it was all a dream, and George is back in bed next to her.
You've talked about like being mad at JP for something you've dreamt. How the fuck can she?
Oh, yeah.
Could you imagine the next day?
It'd be a rough day.
Yeah.
You
But I
killed our
didn't
kid.
do it.
Yeah.
But I didn't do it. We get a card that reads 19th day, Friday. George is asleep in front of the fireplace, and he wakes up screaming, "I'm coming apart! Mother of God, I'm coming apart!"
I want to say that James Brolin in an interview, he said, I might have gone a little too far in that.
A lot,
He's like,
man.
put a little too much mustard on that one. But I look, it's such a great line.
It is.
It works for me.
It works great, but then Kathy comes running downstairs, and George is like, "I'm dreaming. Sorry if I woke you up." Like,
Sorry. Yeah. Why is everyone so violently waking up in this house? Her thing about he shot her in the head.
yeah. She's like, "Oh my
Yeah,
goodness."
my bad. Oh, I'm sorry.
It kind of reminded me of in 1408 when he's sitting in the chair and he's freaking out.
Yes.
And then Evil Dead, he does it in Evil Dead too.
Yeah, I
Yes.
never put that together, but
that
you're
is so true.
right.
See, this influenced, it did.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But his eyes are red, and he has tears just streaming down his face.
Yeah.
Again, he does not look well.
No.
She asks what happened to his foot and shows him what looks like teeth marks on his foot and ankle. He says he just tripped and to quit nagging him. So are we to believe that dragon bit him?
Oh, I guess so.
guess.
Maybe that's why he fell.
Yeah.
I'm very confused.
So maybe it wasn't buying the dragon. The demon hired the dragon. It's like, take care of my light work. I'll handle the dreams.
Right. 1500, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Get his ankle.
Oh, those are biting prices.
He complains that it's always so cold in here and goes to put more logs on the fire. Kathy proposes that they just pack their shit and go. When George doesn't answer her, she screams for him to leave the fire alone and answer her. George stands up and with crazy eyes yells at her that they're not going anywhere. She's the one that wanted the house, so just shut up. She tearfully calls him a bastard, and he slaps her fucking hard across the face.
It's tough. Her nose is bloody.
Yeah, it to me was very shocking. I was
Yeah.
not expecting that.
Yeah.
Even when he's like, "Shut up!" Like I still wasn't expecting him to hit her.
It's like several shocking scenes one
Yes.
after
Yeah.
another. It's a lot.
Yeah, but she sobs, and he just goes back to tending the fire, and
Yeah.
she leaves the room.
Yeah, but he looks like he doesn't know what's going on. He's just putting fire.
Yeah.
He's putting firewood, and he's like sitting there all weird. It's
Yeah.
like, dude, are you okay?
No,
No.
he's not okay. But we cut to the church, and Kathy passes a nun playing some hoops with some kids. Like,
Yeah.
fucking dunking
She's
on them
whooping
and
their
shit.
asses
Yeah,
in some
she
street
did.
hoops.
Which, see, I thought, I was like, is that the sister or
Yeah, that's Aunt Helena.
was it?
She's
Was
like,
it?
I don't know. She's like, I used to whip my niece's ass in the fucking.
She's like, "Gotcha, bitch."
Yeah. She jukes out of the way, fucking crosses him.
Get her on the court, and
Game.
she's trouble.
Habits.
But Kathy tries to talk to a man working on a vehicle. He slides out, and we see that it's Father Bolin. Kathy tells him that she's been looking for Father Delaney, but Bolin says that Delaney left on vacation since he's been overworked. Now, this is when Margot Kidder's teeth.
Yeah. Her lips
Yeah.
are like, I don't want to act anymore.
She's like, "But he's our family friend."
You make her look like Fire Marshal
that
Bill.
That's the vibe, man.
Oh my
That's it.
God.
But she does. She's like, he's more than a priest. He's a family friend. She breaks down in tears, telling him that she needs to talk to him now. But Father Bolin's like, "Look, this is out of my hands."
So is this him being like a boxing dude from Exorcist?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yes. There's him, and then we've got.
Sorry about the name. I forgot his name.
No, Father Karras.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then we've got the sergeant sitting on the bench at the basketball court watching Kathy. So
Yeah.
he's the detective
Right.
from The
Uh-huh.
Exorcist.
Yeah. I did want to say it seemed like a interesting connection to the true crime case. I don't know if it's just me connecting dots,
Uh-huh.
but him working on his own car with DeFeo being a mechanic.
Huh.
Maybe he used to be his mechanic and now he's like, now I got to do this shit.
All right.
That's good. I like that.
I thought that would be
Yeah.
interesting. Because it was odd to see him working on his own
Yeah.
car.
Yeah, it really felt like there was no reason for that to be happening. But Father Bolin goes back inside the church. Later, the sergeant watches Bolin, now wearing a hat, sunglasses, and a coat, exit the church and get in his car, and the sergeant follows him.
Kinnaman, Detective Kinnaman.
Thank you.
I was
Yes.
like, I'm gonna-
and I loved him
Yes.
in The Exorcist. But he goes to the park to meet Father Delaney, who is sitting on a bench in a cloak, still blind, alone.
Yeah.
Kinderman.
Kinderman.
Kinnaman is Joel Kinnaman. That's a person.
Kinderman.
Kinderman.
But Father Bolin offers to read the mail he brought for him, but Father Delaney doesn't answer him. There's a lot of ignoring going on in this
Yeah.
film. They sit in awkwardness, Father Bolin attempting to make conversation and Father Delaney refusing to acknowledge him. Father Bolin just gets up and leaves, but on his way back to his car, he bumps into the sergeant, who identifies himself and asks to have a word with him. He flat out asks what's happening with Father Delaney. He says he's an old friend and he can't get the story right of what's going on. What? He's an
Yeah,
old friend?
He's an old friend because they were friends on The Exorcist.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm like, what?
Well, but it also mirrors the end of The Exorcist where
It does.
they meet at the stairs.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like, you know?
I don't know, man.
I mean, and another thing for me, why is Father Bolin lying about Father
I
Delaney?
don't understand. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's like,
Maybe
oh,
he's trying to
understand
protect
that.
Father Delaney. I don't
know.
really understand this part.
He's like, oh, he's in Port Aransas, and then we go
Yeah,
see
he's
him.
right there.
No, he's
Oh,
not.
no, he's not. I'm just so confused.
Maybe he didn't. He doesn't want her to know that he went blind.
Maybe.
Or if
Yeah.
if he really thinks he's having some kind of psychotic break, he doesn't. He's trying to protect him. I don't know.
But-
I wish all of this was more fleshed out.
But the thing is, again, it goes back to he was still a priest. He's been there for some time. You
Yes.
guys immediately wrote him off as
Yeah.
crazy.
And you said that he's been a source of comfort for
Yes.
you since coming back from the war.
But you don't believe what he's
But
telling you.
you crazy
Nope.
old
Yeah.
man! Like
Yeah.
I don't. None of this really. I feel like is fully fleshed out.
And the fact that I don't really recall much more of this plot line,
No,
Yeah.
it's a very unsatisfying conclusion.
very
Yeah.
much so. But anyway, the sergeant's like, he's our family friend. Father Bolin tells him that there is no story, and the sergeant muses that he may just be chasing shadows then. Father Bolin leaves for his car, and the sergeant looks over at Father Delaney, who still sits alone. And, you know, it's not a possession film, horror film, haunted house film without a research sequence. So we go to the library, and a man sets up Kathy on a microfiche.
Which we love.
We love a microfiche
Love to see it.
with the newspapers of the day after the murders. Now, she scrolls through them before stopping on a picture of a handcuffed man in a cop car, and it is literally fucking
Yes.
George. Like, I was laughing. They could have just used his brother again.
Yeah, I was confused because it's James Brolin.
Yeah.
It's a fucking
you can
James
tell
Brolin.
it's him.
Yeah. And she obviously reacts violently because
Well, yeah. Now we know the bartender dropped the beer.
Yeah.
He's like, they let you out. But back at the house, George is sharpening his axe, and again, he does not look well. Amy is drawing and writing Jody's name on a canvas. Harry is in the basement looking concerned. We all should have listened to Harry at the beginning. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
whatever.
I do respect him for trying again to get closer.
Yeah.
It's like, you can do this, Harry. Jesus. And I meant to say that she's getting her Lois Lane on in the
She was. Yeah, she was. But we see Kathy in the car racing back home. At the house, George starts digging a hole in the yard. Harry watches as the floor starts shaking in the basement. Kathy continues to drive home as George starts nailing the window shut. None of this is good.
No, get out of that basement, dog.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Harry barks at the moving floorboards in the basement, and we zoom in on the Virgin Mary, again, I think, on Kathy's dashboard as she drives home. We get a card that reads, "The Last Night."
It's not a good thing.
It's not. And you're right, dude. That is literally the last we see of Father Bolin, Father
Yeah.
Delaney, Sergeant John Frideau. Like, that's...
Isn't that weird?
That is incredibly unsatisfying.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, I mean, how much time was devoted to them?
That is shockingly, and so like I'm processing it in real time. That's appalling, actually.
The film feels long, and then you have all that stuff. Maybe cut a little bit, help with the pacing if you're not going to do anything with it.
So what becomes of Father Delaney? Does he get his sight back?
He's
No.
yeah. I don't know.
What the fuck?
I don't know.
And why did you? I mean, Father Bolin isn't fully fleshed out, but you fleshed him out a little and then just hung him out to dry.
Yeah.
The satisfying conclusion would be everything he's learned from Father Delaney, he saves the Lutzes.
Yes.
But if you're sticking with the quote true story
It can't.
unquote,
Yeah.
you can't do that.
Then why'd you add all these extra characters in here?
Runtime.
What's the detective
Yeah.
even doing?
He's Detective Kinderman.
Yeah.
I mean,
Kinderman did more.
He's
He was putting
detecting.
shit together.
yeah.
This detective is just like, I don't know what's going on. Like, that's his whole
Like,
character.
I was a friend of his. I hadn't talked about it before,
never.
but I was.
Yeah, I've never made this clear, but we go way back. Anyway, let's set the tone. It's the last night.
The last night.
It is pouring rain and storming again. George goes into the boathouse as Kathy pulls into the driveway. How long has she been driving home? Where's this library?
She went to the one 2 towns over.
Yeah.
But she runs toward the house, immediately falling in the yard and then running inside, screaming at the top of her lungs for George and the kids.
She smeared mud on the door on her way in. I was like, damn, they really had her fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, she ate it.
Yeah.
In the boathouse, George checks the ropes tying his boat to the dock before going back out into the rain. From inside, Kathy sees him walking toward the house holding an axe. From outside, George looks up in the window and sees a giant red-eyed pig staring back at him.
Okay, so this is where we have some trouble. This, according to the reports, Jody was a pig
Correct.
that Amy befriended. It's like a demon pig.
Okay.
As one
like
does.
Black Phillip.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah, but goats are inherently scary. Pigs are just cute.
But
And tasty.
And delicious.
pigs are what? Gluttony or sloth or some
I
shit? Or,
They got a whole
Yes.
sin attached.
Yeah.
Goats are like, I'm just trying to eat a can.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was, I mean, this is when they're starting to throw in a lot of stuff that they haven't really explained.
That
Right.
and that's literally what it feels like. We didn't talk about the pig.
We got to show the pig.
Throw the pig in
And
there.
it looked like they just put a pig in front of a blue screen and just had him walk around a little.
It does.
Because,
Had him walk around a little.
well, he's floating in the window so oddly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the pig.
I no, me neither. But he goes inside and immediately heads upstairs, calling out for Amy. As he heads up to the attic room, the walls and stairs start bleeding.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it odd that he's calling out for Amy?
I think he's going to kill Amy.
Oh, okay. So he's
Yeah.
gonna fulfill that nightmare.
I think
Right.
so.
So I mean, again, we were talking about pulling from The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
This is The Shining.
Yeah.
Take a shot,
Right. But The Shining came out later,
right?
but the book came out before.
That's what I'm talking about.
So, and I say that in 2 seconds. Hang on.
Oh, okay.
But he continues to yell for Amy until he hears her crying. She's hiding with her brothers in the attic bathroom. George starts to pull a Jack Torrance and hacks up the door. But Kathy jumps on him from behind. She wrestles him and he knocks her over. On the ground, her face is disfigured and wrinkled. So he's like, George is like, you haven't made her an old lady. Fuck. Okay.
Yeah,
see?
The movie's over in 5 minutes, but I'll put it in there.
I hadn't done my research yet when I watched it.
And you're like, what
So I was
the
like,
fuck?
why the fuck does she look so old?
Right.
And then I look it up and see that was part of the reported phenomena. But
George claimed that she aged to a 90-year-old woman before his eyes, and then the next day she was levitating on the bed.
I think that I read some reports that said that her mother also saw her do it.
Well, that's okay. So
I saw her do it like she's like, what? This mom?
She synced it.
And just ages.
she did fucking Chris Angel.
Yeah.
Mind freak. Shout out to Anthony Jerome.
Are you ready?
But that's the story. Is she aged to a 90-year-old woman, and then the next night she started levitating off the bed, and he had to catch her before she left the bed because he was afraid she was going to hit the floor.
Right.
And then they claim, because spoiler alert, nobody else that ever owned the house after them
Right.
had any kind of paranormal activity going on. And so the Lutzes claimed that the evil left with them. And their evidence of this is that they fled to Kathy's mother's house and she watched them levitate.
All right.
She just watched them do it. Again,
man.
watch this,
But
mom.
they did pass the lie detector test and the levitation was part of the test.
And their son was Chris Angel. He's the one that got his hand smashed.
He's Chris Lutz.
There you go.
I will say, though, that lie detector tests are not admissible in court, and there is a reason for that.
Absolutely.
Right. See, I thought that, and I guess that makes sense why they did it like that, but I thought maybe he was just seeing her as the mom from what had happened.
That would make more sense.
You know what I mean? Like she
Yeah.
looked like the mom that died.
Yeah,
so
and
it's
so
like
if he's stepping into the role
Right.
of Ronnie, yeah, that would make more sense, but that's not what's happening.
okay, then I don't know.
I just showing that unexplained is just such a what the fuck moment.
It is.
Uh,
But George brings the axe down, but misses Kathy. Kathy sobs, begging him not to hurt her babies, and he looks confused. Like he's like, what the fuck?
yeah.
I like how that's how I described looking confused.
What the fuck?
He's like, what the fuck?
Well, I mean, he
Well,
probably
he-
thought she was an intruder.
Yeah.
But he holds her and she tells him that she saw his picture in the newspaper. He hugs her tighter and tells her that he wouldn't hurt her, but he did just swing an axe at her.
That
But
did happen.
right.
the house continues to bleed, the blood running down the stairs. In the basement, the floor just explodes open. Lightning strikes and those iconic windows just fucking explode. They grab the kids and run down the bleeding stairs. Matt, of course, busts his ass and falls down the stairs.
Yes.
He did manage not to break a light bulb.
Still.
Smack it on the way down. I do want to say that the tree with the window a few years later, poltergeist.
Yeah.
All right.
But they manage to get to the front door as something growls at them from Amy's room. So were they just like, I'm fucking done. Y'all aren't getting the subtle hints. Let's just fucking, we're bleeding. We're exploding windows. Like what's
Who's
happening?
cleaning that blood up?
I don't know.
I don't know, man. I'm not.
But
I'll tell you that much.
But the other thing, though, I understand wanting the priest out of the house.
Right.
Why are you trying to push the Lutzes out of the house? They haven't even done the murder yet that you want them to do.
No,
Yeah.
I guess they're like, he's not biting, man. Just get the
Yeah,
fuck
get
out.
out.
Yeah, we'll try the next family.
But we won't, though.
No, we'll get tired. We'll sleep like Pennywise for 27 years or whatever.
But George wrestles the door open, and again, one of the boys busts his ass and falls down the porch
Yep.
steps. They all get in the car, and George realizes that he doesn't have the keys. Kathy finds them, but Amy starts to cry that she wants Harry. George hesitates for a moment, but Kathy begs George to just drive, so he does. They speed down the road, but abruptly stop. Kathy screams at him, George, no! But George gets out of the van and runs back to the house. He calls out for Harry, but there's no sign of him.
In his defense, Harry seemed a good boy.
Yeah, he was a good boy.
I wouldn't leave that dog to
no.
die there.
Yeah, you can't.
But I would have realized that before I got to the car.
That's true. Oh shit, the dog's not here.
I would be like, where's Luna?
But you're
Yeah.
trying to get all the kids.
yeah, but Harry's
And-
one of the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in the confusion, you're trying to hurry.
I guess, but I do give him points for going back.
Look, I will box whatever demon I have to get Luna out of the
Yes.
house.
Yes.
I'm not leaving her here.
No.
No.
That's on Cat Jesus and everything. There's no. You're
Not
not
Cat
gonna. You
Jesus.
can't have my cat.
You
No.
can't say
Can't
that
have my
unless
cat.
you mean it.
Oh, I.
Oh, you
mean-
got him. Yeah. And that's me saying that for a dog. I'm a cat person.
Yeah.
So that just
Yeah,
shows how
yeah.
good this
Just
dog
a
You
was.
pet.
can't you
Your
don't
pet.
you don't
Don't
leave
do
the pet
that.
behind.
Don't do it.
But he finally goes down in the basement and we see that it is filled with smoke. He takes a few steps down but falls through the floor and into that black sludge.
Directly into
Yeah.
it.
Oh, yeah. Back in the van, they all sit staring down the road, waiting for George to come back. In the basement, completely black with the sludge, George crawls out of the hole.
He's like, now I'll pull my arms out
With
with
my-
my face.
Harry barks at him and starts to attack, biting his arm. But George is like, it's me, baby. When Harry sees that it's him, he helps him out of the hole. He like grabs his arm and is helping pull him
Yeah.
out.
See, that
It's
shows
like, that's why I fucking came back for your ass,
exactly.
man.
The dogs are ride or die.
But he praises
The
Harry.
dogs are rough or die.
He praises Harry and picks him up, carrying him upstairs. They go straight to the front door, but it closes in George's face. Harry stands behind him, whimpering. Outside, we see the windows of the living room break outwards, and George lifts Harry through it. He runs through the yard carrying the dog. Finally, from the van, they see him coming. He hops inside, and they take the fuck off. Thunder continues to boom, and the house still stands tall, lights still on in the iconic windows. We get a card that says, George and Kathleen Lutz and their family never reclaimed their house or their personal belongings. Today, they live in another state. And that's the movie, guys.
Yeah.
That's the end.
Why do I remember them escaping by boat?
Because maybe that's the remake. I
Maybe
think
it
that
is.
happens in the Ryan Ryan Reynolds one.
Right.
when he's
We got his tits out.
Well,
I
but
keep saying that and you keep getting mad at me for saying
because it's like tits out, man.
it. Well, everybody, that's what you remember is Ryan Reynolds shirtless.
I did not, but thank you
yes,
for
you did.
Not until y'all brought it up. But
That's
dude's
all-
running around in his underwear in this movie, so
He
I
is.
mean,
Yeah,
it
he
doesn't.
is. He is.
I mean, it's fine.
It does end abruptly, is what we're
Yeah.
trying
It
to say.
is incredibly
Yeah.
abruptly, but I have to ask, what did you guys think of the Amityville Horror?
Real quick, see how easy that was to break the window out, get your pet, and get the fuck out.
Uh-huh.
The window won't break. I don't know how to get out. Throw something out the window, dude.
Yes.
Get the fuck out of the possessed house.
It honestly is a little funny because
Get out.
they slam the door in his face like, He's like, there's a fucking window
right there.
Right there,
It's
man.
right there, dude. I mean, so I do enjoy that.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's exactly what you're
points for
going to
sure.
do.
Yeah.
Oh, the door? Fuck your door,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
I'm out. I do enjoy this movie. Watching it now and then hearing, you know what I mean? Like you said, in real time, there is a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense or it's whatever. But if you're saying this is the account that they gave, then I mean, bravo, you followed it to what they told you.
Yeah.
I do want to touch on that very quickly.
Okay.
Because we didn't really get to dig into the actual case of what happened.
I know that's what you want.
You know me.
Oh, yeah.
Just a quick rundown. We saw in the film he murdered his family.
Right.
When he was arrested for the trial, he claimed insanity and basically said that there were voices in the house that told him to do it. So later on, he said that his sister Dawn did it, and then he killed Dawn for doing it.
Which does not explain the crime scene.
Not at
Right.
all. Then he said that he and Dawn, because his father, if you dig into the story of the DeFeos, his father was incredibly abusive.
Right.
And I guess he and Dawn, in this version anyway,
This version of the story.
he and Dawn were done. And they were going to kill, I don't know if it was supposed to be just their father or both of their parents, but the deal was that that's what was going to happen. And it was him and Dawn and a friend.
Right.
So that's what was supposed to happen. I guess the parents were supposed to be taken out. His story this time was that he and Dawn killed their parents and this third friend
Right.
killed their parents. And then Dawn went and killed the siblings. And that was not part of the deal. So he murdered Dawn. Again, it's ever evolving. But when it gets to the root of it, he says, and I quote, "No demons, no ghosts." That there was nothing supernatural.
Right.
This was him and his sister or just him, but there was nothing supernatural involved. He goes on to say that his attorney, Weber, while he was on trial, cooked this up with the Lutzes before they even purchased the house.
Well, the thing is that they had a ton of lawsuits after the book was released. And so you have Weber and the Lutzes suing each other
Yes.
as well as Anson in on it. And
Yes.
What the fuck?
So if there was nothing about the lawyer and the Lutzes,
No.
they wouldn't be suing each
Right.
other. And
the thing is about that lawsuit,
Yes.
though, is that he said was it a sworn affidavit?
yes,
That they cooked up this story over a bottle of wine in an evening.
yeah.
And you can't fucking lie on those things.
I mean, you
you can, but yeah, they
he's
know.
like,
No,
did
they
she turns
don't.
into a fucking old woman? Or
Yeah.
like, what are you guys thinking?
The wine. I mean, shit.
And
But-
then we were like floating and shit.
But the thing is that it's so weird that you would believe it. Why would you come up with a pig demon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That seems so weird that you're like, well, that must have happened.
Yeah.
So I just
yeah.
wanted to point that out because I know that Ronnie DeFeo Jr. is not a fucking reliable
Right.
source whatsoever, but it does seem like there's a little bit of meat to that.
Right.
One thing that he did also do is blame the mafia.
He did, that his family had ties to the mafia and that this was all a mafia style hit.
And the thing is that I think it's either his uncle or his great uncle. It was a capo in the Genovese crime family.
Yeah.
So you're like, well, and then you wonder about the drugging of the members
Right.
of the family to where they didn't wake up, and then toxicology reports come back say there were no drugs in their
Yeah.
system. So that lends credence to more than one killer.
Yes, it does.
I don't know, man.
I mean, there's a lot of question marks, and my whole life I was just like, nah, man, the fucking demons told me to do it. But now, looking at it a little more clinically and looking at it from a true crime perspective, I mean, fucking David Berkowitz was like, the dog told me to, and then later he was like, I made all that shit up. Like
there was no dog.
That dog was a very good boy. He was not part of any of that shit.
He told me not to kill them.
Right.
But people do that.
Yeah.
People do that. And so it's definitely enough to make me not as certain.
And we'll never know.
We'll never know.
Everyone
Ronnie DeFeo,
involved.
he died this year.
Yeah.
The Lutzes passed away. The Warrens passed away.
Yeah.
Anson, the author of the book, I believe he had a heart attack the year after this film came out.
Not a heart attack.
Yeah, I know.
Lorraine was right. But I don't think you gave your opinions.
Sorry.
I just had to jump in.
No. I think this film is great for what it is, especially at the time that it was made.
Mm-hmm.
For sure, yeah.
I think it falls into a lot of the cliches that it probably honestly created a lot of. So you can't really hold it against it.
Right.
When it's probably the originator of them. But it also avoids a lot of the cliches that were to come.
Yeah.
Them knowing that the house has that history at the start.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Did we touch on the fact that the priest later said that it didn't happen?
I don't believe so. But that's also very important.
I know you wanted to talk about that.
Well, yeah, because the priest for years, he would have these interviews and say that, this happened and then the flies and all this.
Yeah.
And then towards the end, researchers are talking to him and he's like, oh, that never happened. You're like, what the fuck? And he was the worst offender of changing his story.
Yeah.
Well, him and DeFeo.
Well, but he's, again, you murdered people.
Yeah.
So you kind of expect that story to change when you're trying to not pay for murdering those people.
Yeah.
And I feel like priests, probably the good ones anyway, aren't used to lying.
No.
Yeah.
So it was probably pretty difficult for him.
And that was the other thing about Weber with the idea for the book and everything was he was trying to get DeFeo another trial with this book to say, look, this is the story of spirits and all that.
Yeah.
So that's what did it. He's not, you can't find him guilty because, the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of ulterior motives aside from just the money.
Yeah. Which is a big motive.
Big motive.
Yeah.
But no, I think that if you look at this film as a film rather than a true story,
Right.
Yeah.
you're going to have a much better time.
Oh,
You
yeah.
will, but I feel like it's so intertwined that I really can't.
No, it's really hard.
I really can't.
It's really hard. I love when true crime and horror intersect.
Oh, for sure. Because
But-
a lot of true crime is absolutely horrific.
Of course. But this is probably one of the biggest, maybe the biggest examples of true crime and horror
Could be, yeah.
commingling like this.
It's incredibly iconic.
Yeah.
I just a couple more things that I don't know if you're aware of, but I wanted to mention. The very famous picture of the little boy in the house.
God, don't even.
That was taken while the Warrens were there.
So it wasn't real.
And Ed Warren made it a point in that interview that I watched to mention that the latitude of the Amityville house is 40.666.
I'm going to go ahead and take off. I'll see you guys next week.
That tickled me. It's just that he's a salesman, like you said. He's so
always on.
just constantly adding hot sauce to it. There's no it can't just be weird. But also I mean, there's so much.
It's like a hot dog. You add so much mustard that the meat's not even there anymore. What are you doing, Ed? What are you doing, dude?
It's just so funny. I thought you'd appreciate that. But,
Sure.
But I like this movie. We grew up watching these more than just this one. I feel like we watched all of the Amityville movies. I know there's a scene with the garbage disposal in an Amityville film that still haunts me to this day.
Yeah.
So I know that these were a big staple growing up, and I still appreciate it for what it is. The performances, specifically James Brolin, are fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm really hurt by the whole dropped storyline.
Yeah.
That I never it's still bugging me, honestly.
I feel like we heard your heart break in half in real time.
Because I'm like, it's like, no, it's done.
Yeah.
It's over.
When they say the last night, you're like, oh shit, Father, whatever his name
He's
is.
going to come crashing through the window, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, no,
he's going to save all their lives.
He's not, though.
No.
So that hurts it for me. But I will say I can't deny that this is a good movie, and I feel like I'll definitely watch it again.
Oh, yeah.
I would like to rewatch the remake and see how it kind of stacks up. The only takeaway is I remember leaving being like, wow, Ryan Reynolds was actually scary.
Right.
Because I'd never seen him be anything but funny before.
I thought you were going to say, wow, Ryan Reynolds
he really had his tits
he's really cut.
No, I just remember being very surprised that he could be, because the character of George Lutz, take away that he is a real person or was a real person.
Yeah.
You really have to take yourself there, because he goes to a very dark place. And James Brolin did a great job.
His tits out. I'm still on it, dude.
His tits are out. His tits are out. But we talked about this, and if I was at a Ryan Reynolds level of athletic, I would demand to be naked for at least half of every film I was in.
Yeah, because you got to think about all the stuff you sacrificed to get into
I haven't
that
had
shape.
ice cream in 6 years.
You're not. Yeah, you're not
Let me
going to
take my
deny
shirt
me of the pleasures of life, and then I can't show it off.
Yeah,
there's no way.
I want to take a firm stand. I am pro carb. So I get it.
But I do want to rewatch it. I honestly want to go through the series again and see, how they stack up.
Right.
Sequels have a tendency to get pretty trash, as we've talked about, and I wonder if these do as well. Or what liberties do they take? Because they've gone on record and said no other family has been haunted. Well, so do we just keep retelling the story, or like I'm interested?
Well, the second one isn't. I mean, the second one's well, no, yeah, I guess it is just kind of a retell.
Well, because I was wondering, because I mean, if you look at them, if you believe everything, there's really only one true story to tell.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so,
well, there's the story of the DeFeos and the story of the Lutzes, and that's all. That's it. So I'm gonna definitely go through and watch them. I know this one and the remake are on HBO Max right now.
Okay.
I don't know about the sequels though, but I will have to hunt those out.
Let's dive in.
Yeah,
like into that tar pit.
Into the tar pit. But I guess we can go into ratings instead of just rambling about the case
Fair
more.
enough.
I think I've already said how I feel. This movie is good. I do enjoy it. There's still parts that are frightening. Mm-hmm. The performances are really good. James Brolin and Rod Steiger.
Yeah.
Very good. There's some parts that are pretty laughable on accident. There's parts that leave more to be desired. But I think the standout for me really is just watching James Brolin be overcome by this mother of God. Like, he's fucked up.
He's coming apart.
He is coming apart. But with the good and the bad, and I'll try to divorce it from the hoax or non-hoax as much as I can. But I think I'm going to be a little generous with this movie because I have liked it since I was a kid. But with all that being said, on a scale from 1 to 10 giant demon pigs, I'm going to give the Amityville Horror 7.5 out of 10 giant demon pigs. I had really gone into this thinking that it would be higher. And the drop storyline really does hurt. It probably should be lower just for that.
Yeah.
But this movie kind of has a special place to me. I know, John Paul, you too. I know you really love it. He's kind of been pushing for this one since the beginning. And we thought that October, it would be fun to kick it off with it. But 7.5. I'm happy with that. I'll open the floor.
Well, thank you guys for letting us cover it.
Yeah.
Of course.
But I'm like you. I watched this a lot as a kid too. This was in the rotation. The second one I've seen a lot too. I've seen the remake a few times, not as many as, you know what I mean? Maybe less than a handful.
Yeah.
But I have seen this one and the second one quite a few times. I do like it, and I'm not that big into the true crime of it, so I can separate it from what it is.
Easily.
Yeah. But so as a movie, I still enjoy it.
Yeah.
I do see where it hurts, like y'all pointed out, and like kind of learning what was going on and whatnot. And then you're right with like the priests and everything and the detective. They're just gone.
Man. gone.
They're just gone. But the thing I think too that saves it for me is all the, when we yell at them and we're like, just go out the window or just whatever.
They
do
do
it.
Yeah,
and it's
they
like,
do
oh,
it.
thank God. It's
Thank
like,
you.
all right. And it didn't take a priest or somebody or a medium or somebody to come in and tell this dude, hey, you're gonna kill your wife. You know what I mean? Stop.
Yeah.
He's like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah, and he got his family the fuck
and
out
he's
of there.
like, no.
Mm-hmm.
I got, because you see that throughout the movie. He comes, you see little bits and pieces of him still there, but then he goes back when he's in the house and he's like, fuck, you know what I mean? Something's wrong.
Yeah.
Then he comes out a little bit, and then. So for him to still be there and it just be them as a family getting out, and then going back for the pet, I mean, that's obviously that's a win for me.
Oh,
Yeah.
of course.
So for me, on a scale from 1 to 10 giant demon pigs, I have to give the Amityville Horror an 8 out of 10. I do, and it is from a nostalgia, you know what I mean? But
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
I still think if you can separate it from what's going on and like the truth to it and whatever, it's a good movie.
And you should be able to. I just feel like with who I am as a person,
Right.
I couldn't not bring it to the table. I
Right,
know,
right.
T, you're the same way.
Yeah.
We got to talk about it.
Yeah. And like I said, it might have been off mic, might have been at the beginning. It's been a long day.
I know. So I was like, did we talk about the priest
Yeah,
or
I
no?
don't know. We both went into research the film and
Yeah,
ended up
and
researching the crime way more.
Yeah.
I had texted T last night and was like, I'm watching this thing with Ed and Lorraine or whatever, and he's like, I feel like I've done more research on the crime than I did on the film. I was
Yeah.
like, no, but same.
No
'Cause
joke.
I mean, once you go into trying to research the film, it's like, but in real life, like, I
Yeah.
mean, even,
Yeah.
it's not just us.
Yeah, even on IMDb, they're like, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm not here for that right now. I mean, I love it, but I'm not here for it.
Yeah.
I'm trying my best.
But no, I agree with both of you, the positive, negative points that you made. On the positive side, this is a really fun film.
It
Yeah.
is.
I mean, a lot of dark shit happens, but
Oh,
it's still real fun. I have to, like you said, call it the performances. James Brolin, Margot Kidder,
Yeah.
Rod Steiger, all fantastic work. For a film that, the way that they've paced it, I feel like they over-deliver.
They do. And even the kids, the kids were good.
Dude, that kid was really crying.
Yeah.
I mean it. Like, it's nuts. I love the cinematography. I called it out. The music is creepy.
Oh, yeah.
I love how much you can tell this influenced every haunted house film that came after.
And you can
Oh,
feel
yeah.
it for
You can
sure.
really feel it.
Yeah.
And speaking of influence, I am not going to hold it against this film how much the story was influenced by horror media
Right.
around at the time. When they're concocting this hoax and
Yeah.
they bring in The Exorcist, bring in, The Omen, The Shining.
Yeah.
That's not on the filmmakers.
It's not. But I didn't realize how much of it felt.
Yeah.
Derivative.
Yeah. On the negative side, though, as I said, that marriage between the priest subplot and the Lutz main story,
Yeah.
it never really works.
It's weird.
And it really bums me out. I know that you're trying to stay as close as you can to the source material, and the priest did not save the day
Yeah.
or anything.
No, he
but
didn't.
then don't give him such a huge character
I was going to
arc.
say, but
Yeah.
that's what you led us to. It's
Yeah.
like, nah, psych, he's blind.
Yeah, never
it's
mind,
like,
never
wait,
mind.
Because on the
what?
cool, he got nothing for his but
No,
trouble.
No.
no.
For him trying to help, it's like,
Yeah.
here's a little something for your trouble. And he's just there.
Yeah.
He
and
wouldn't
then-
even talk.
And then to make it worse than what, quote, really happened.
Yeah.
He had a
Dude's
cough.
like, my nose was a little stuffy, and the priest is like, I'm blind.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there feeding the ducks his, forever
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot to have no payoff. But on a scale from 1 to 10 giant demon pigs, I am going to give the Amityville Horror 7 out of 10 giant demon pigs. I remember watching this. There's a lot of fondness for it. Mm-hmm. It didn't stick to my bones like other movies did.
Yeah.
That, we watched as kids. But it's definitely one that will be thrown in the rotation.
for sure.
Yeah.
It's a fun movie. The true crime element of it doesn't ruin the film the way that, it isn't exactly
Right.
Yeah,
correct or proper, but I highly recommend just at least checking it out
for sure.
Oh, yeah.
if you haven't. And I know that we did spend a lot of time on the true crime.
We did.
But-
one might say too much time.
I hope we're sorry.
Well, that's all from us at Podmortem. What would you rate the Amityville Horror, and what should we watch next? Let us know on Twitter at the Podmortem. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and like us on Facebook. Be sure to follow each of us on Twitter at Blood and Smoke, at RealStreeter84, and at TravisMWH. Please consider pledging to our Patreon and stay tuned until after the music for a special shout out to our Wendigo Getter patrons. And remember, if you find yourself haunted by the past, make sure you know when it's time to move on. Until next time. Thank you for staying tuned for a special thank you to our Wendigo Getter patrons.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Woo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. We love it all. That's all I had was just a random noise.
A very special thank you to Chris Ontiveros, Kristen Lofton, Megan Martinez, Kimberly Bass, Melanie Van Houston, Sophie Hodson, Anthony Jerome M., Jordan Nash, Kent Morton, Allison O'Neill, Guy 54, Lala Tamez, Travis and Nisa Hunter, Miguel Myers ATX, Mandy, Jennifer Perez, Pierre Lombard, Carissa, TJ Bronson, Gabrielle Trevino, Spooky Mom, Andy Teague, Applin Ontiveros, Karima Rhodes, Antonio Huerta, Kimberly Kleindienst, Will Brown, Linda, Sydney Smith, Osvaldo Soto, Jonathan Booth, Bobby Holmes, Donna Eason, JD Rizak, Molly Gerhart, Armand Sposto, Aaron Aguirre, Eggy, William Barry, and Brittany. Thank you all so much.
Yes, thank you all. You are all oink-credible.
Okay.
As a demon pig.
We love you, Lutz.
We do great work here.
Very cerebral.
Indeed.
I will have to say, just know that we are truly thankful that we're here for you, even when, Mother of God, you're coming apart.
Put all the mustard on it, man.
All of it. Mustard and hot sauce.
There you go.
Until next time.